poison Rana.
Hello, welcome, happy holidays. It's the Bushby and Thompson Christmas Wrestling Extravaganza. What a tongue twister that is. And I'm your host, Martin Bushby. And joining me is the youngest in charge, the main man himself, Mr. Andrew Thompson. Andrew, it's so good to see you again, mate. So good to hear your voice. We're back doing this podcast thing again.
Martin, my heart is warm, brother. Very, very warm today. Very excited to be doing this. It's been a long time. The last time Bushby and Thompson's wrestling adventure was live, my brother, was, let me get a good look at this date. June 23rd, 2022 was the final adventure. And here we are now, December 5th, 2024. We back.
Yep, we're back. Well, we've been chatting about doing another show for a while, haven't we? And we thought, it's Christmas. Let's, get everyone in and, get us on, get all our old guests back. And, and here we are, Christmas. Yeah, perfect time to do it.
It is indeed the perfect time, man. I'm gonna reiterate this. I am very excited about this. Let me just say this real quick. That podcast that we did was like some of the funnest audio that I've ever had the pleasure of doing. You were like the elite co-host, and we've spoken about that numerous times, like whether it be on social media or in private. Some very, very fond times throughout my like wrestling writing / podcasting venture. Has been that is like some of the most fun stuff that I've been able to personally record, which is with you. So shout out to you, my guy. I appreciate you, and thanks for all the wonderful audio content that we were able to create together.
No, right back at you, mate. It was fantastic. Used to love doing them with you, and I'm just so hyped to be doing this one with you again. Absolutely brilliant. Love it. Christmas time, best time of year for me. So we've got a whole host of guests, haven't we? So should we get our first guest in? Join us first. He actually joined us on episode 7 of Bushby and Thompson chatting NXT Takeover Dallas of all shows. He's from the Best Things About Wrestling pod, and just off air, he's been telling us how much other stuff he's doing about TikTok and YouTube and everything. It's Mr. Omar Player to the stage. Omar, how's it going, mate?
What's good, everyone? What's good? I'm just chilling right now. Going to be part of this podcast, part of the show. First of all, I want to thank Andrew for giving me a shot being on that podcast back in 2021. That was really sick. I think that was when my blog was starting to grow a little bit. So that was a great time because that was when I think catching up like 1,000 viewers per month or something. So like him getting me being on the podcast, so he just really played like that 2021 was one of my favorite years to like cover as a professional wrestling fan. So it was a fun episode talking about Takeover Dallas. I believe I was 16 years old when that happened. I'm very young, so apologies for that, but it's crazy. Yeah. It was one of those shows where I could instantly remember because this was around the this is when NXT was actually good. I really enjoyed NXT at that time. That was when they were trying to crack the indie kind of circuit, but it was great. I was really enjoying it. That was when NXT was like maybe an hour long, which at that point in my life I was like, you know what, an hour worth of wrestling is so good. But I feel like WWE's recent programming has been so good that like I don't mind 3 hours at this point. So that was around the time when the product wasn't as good, but yeah, like it was a good time just going back, talking about that era, talking about how those wrestlers they've all been the main roster at this point. It's wild, but yeah, I've enjoyed myself just talking about it and just reminiscent of that time, and for some reason people really like the summer of 2016. I don't know, because while I was doing the research, while I was watching the NXT takeover, I was just doing some research and people were talking about the summer of 2016. That was the best era. I was like, I don't even remember what I did in summer of 2016. I don't know, but yeah, that was an interesting food for thought, I guess.
Yeah, you want to know what's so crazy? Like I'm definitely one of those people that say summer 2016 was probably the best summer I ever had. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was just like the vibe of that summer. Like it seems like it's a universal thing at this point. Like you kind of mentioned, it's kind of like a running joke that everybody says the summer 2016 was the best. But like going back to our that show that you were on with us, Omar. Like, talk about sort of that evolution of NXT. Like, where we went from the black and gold brand to the 2.0, which had a lot of mixed reviews, to where we are present day under the sole reign of Shawn Michaels, where it seems like it's a lot more seemingly universally praised amongst those that consistently view the product. What has been like your assessment of this progression of NXT from that black and gold to the 2.0 to where we are right now?
The back and goal was great. It was great for its time, but then around like 2020 and 2021, I don't know if you ever watch, movies and television shows where you can kind of tell that that person you're watching, what they're putting out, you can tell that brother is burnt the hell out, and that was exactly what happened in around 2020, 2020. I was like, it's not terrible, and it's enjoyable in some aspects, but then I was like, yo, Triple H, my dude is burnt the hell out, man. I was like, he needed some sort of like, some break or something. But and then I mean he played, because at that point they were on the USA network trying to compete with with the AEW, and it didn't work with them because AEW was destroying them in the ratings, something that wrestling fans really love to do. So, but then the NXT 2.0 happened, which I believed was something that needed, because at that point,
Mm-hmm.
like, it felt like it was the black and gold was running its steam, but at this point the color was going away, the gold specifically, and now we have a bunch of colors. You need some color in NXT, which is exactly what happened around September of 2021. And at first you can tell it was not very good. It was a lot of moments, but then they've slowly started to get the strides together, especially considering that it reminds me of when around the ruthless aggression era. This is when they were bringing those. It was around this time when they were bringing the talent that wasn't necessarily experienced with professional wrestling, or hasn't had a professional wrestling background, like as an indie star or so called. And then they were trying to train them, and they were trying to make them more of the WWE pro wrestler esque, instead of the NXT where they're just getting a bunch of indie guys and indie gals. And it was one of those things where, like, it actually worked for the most part. It actually did, and it was crazy because it's just a lot of wacky storylines happen in NXT for the good and for the bad. But I feel like they've still retained the DNA of NXT, which is just developing those talents and developing those characters, those stories, because they still exist. And I think the difference is just the change of presentation, the change of, I think I think a great example of, Apollo Crews kind of benefited from a bit when he went back. Baron Corbin, when he came back, it benefited him tremendously. And I mean, when Finn Balor, that was before the black and gold brand, but still, like, it was just one of those things where you saw these talent. You saw Bronson Reed was great too, but that was on the black and gold brand. But then he came back, and then you had I was mentioning Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, he was great too. Carmelo Hayes. When I saw Carmelo Hayes at that one NXT breakout tournament in 2020, 2021, I was like, that dude is the future. That dude is great. And
Yeah, I think we might have lost Omar then. Oh, that was a
they
shame. He
had
was
a
on the
great
right
But there
road.
you go.
friendship.
There you go. So you still there with us, Omar?
It was just a really, really, really cool moment. But it's one of those things where I really like. It was just they were basically taking the formula of NXT in that they take a simplistic storytelling, which is the thing that professional wrestling is pretty good at, and just taking that DNA that NXT had and just making it better for the most part, just helping them, especially considering that a lot of the talent, when they're working with, they don't need a lot of these complex storytelling. They just need that simple good guy, bad guy, somebody portrayed you, the NXT parking lot, which is by far the most dangerous area in the history of the planet, it seems like. And so it's one of those things where, again, like, NXT has still kept the DNA of developing the talent, developing simplistic storytelling, for better or for worse. And I also love going on the site formerly known as Twitter. Don't take this out of context, because I don't like that site. But I like going to the content specifically because of the jokes. Whenever there's like a very good looking woman, there's always, oh my god, Shawn Michaels gonna sign that person. That Shawn Michaels gonna sign that person. I saw it on Twitter. I don't know if you guys seen it, but it's effing hilarious. I don't know why they do that, but it's still hilarious. But still, like, overall, I think it's still retain the DNA, which is just keeping that simplistic storytelling, develop those talent. It's just that the priority, the way they've done it, is kind of changed. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, wow. I mean, it's funny. Yeah, everyone remembers, oh, Shawn Michaels assigning people that he's seen on Instagram or whatever. That's like the running joke or whatever. And I mean, we obviously we did talk about NXT Takeover Dallas, and one of the big matches on there was Nakamura against Sami Zayn. Probably Nakamura's arguably best match he's had in WWE, in my opinion. I was there at WrestleMania for that stinker he had against AJ Styles. I'll never forgive him for that. But he's been through a bit of a rebrand, hasn't he, Andrew and Omar, over the last sort of like month or so? And how do you feel like his new music? He seems to be on the upswing again now, Omar, sort of like winning the title at Survivor Series and everything.
Exactly. I agree with you. That entrance music, I don't know if Dev Rebel is gone or not. Maybe we'll see what happens, but I don't know what's going on. But that music is fire, by the way. That entrance alone was insanely good. And him winning the US title for what feels like the millionth time, because he's been winning a lot of mid-card titles and hasn't done anything with it. But I read somewhere, and please, Andrew or anyone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he got the title because he has a match scheduled in Japan. If I'm not mistaken, maybe that was the reason. I just read it somewhere.
That was like I did see that get reported, but he does have a match coming up January 1st for Pro Wrestling Noah's, like the I think it's called Noah the New Year, and it was that same show last year where he had it was the year prior where he faced the Great Muta.
Yeah. So yeah. So that was maybe the guess, but either way, like I hope he does something with that title, because just I need a good solid main roster run from Shinsuke Nakamura. The closest thing we got was probably when he told Renee Young that he doesn't speak English, and that was the funniest thing I've heard from him. So
hey, so Omar, I did want to talk to you about your podcast, man. The best things about wrestling. I know you got 21 episodes up. Talk to me and Martin about like your decision to want to decide to give the people some more audio content from the man himself.
The reason why was because, and I'm gonna share a personal story. So somebody who I was good friends with at Fansided, aka Daily DDT, and we were just discussing about just strategies and stuff like that. But one of the things he told me one time was like, "Hey man, like I know you like doing the reviews and stuff, but like let me tell you something. You are killing your potential by not doing original content and by not by just doing reviews. You're actually killing your potential, because it's like you're actually very good at this. You just have to make more."
Well, shame it got cut out again there.
He'll come back.
Yep.
He coming back.
Player Wrestling.
Lost him again.
So much that I was like, you know what? I actually like doing this writing thing. But for some reason I didn't do the podcast back in 2020, but then I started back in 2022, which I believe Andrew was on the show as well, my second guest. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because I've seen a lot of negativity in the wrestling discourse. They were talking about how, like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is the worst thing. Well, so I wanted to counteract that narrative with more of the positive things. Why we like about wrestling, what makes us like about it, why do we like this, and how can it improve? And obviously we can't sugarcoat it. Like, we don't want all those like toxic positivity kind of folks. We want to actually, just talk about the things that we liked about wrestling, but not in a way that feels kind of toxic positivity kind of thing. And the other thing I wanted to do was I just want to ramble about wrestling. I don't have anybody else to talk about wrestling besides myself in the podcast. So, and the reason why I did this was because, again, like, just counteract that narrative. And because this is around the time when Vince left as CEO and chairman. So it was a perfect time for me to talk about the things I like to work, because I have a lot more material now, more than ever before. And so it was a cool thing. And And then I decided to say, you know what, this TikTok and this YouTube Shorts kind of thing, I should probably take this more seriously. And the Instagram Reels, which for some reason I crack like 1,000 views, but I barely get a follower. I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is. Anyways, and then I started doing it on the YouTube Short side of things, and I'm happily to announce that it's doing well. I'm gaining like anywhere from like 10,000 to like 50,000 views per month if I'm always consistent.
Wow.
And
Boom.
I enjoy, yeah, I enjoy doing those. And even when I'm not posting anything, I still gain like 2,000 views a month or something, or like 5,000 a month or something. And it's something because it shows that those shorts that does well, those shorts really prove that what I'm talking about actually has some merit.
Mm.
There's that we're actually having some interesting discussion to talk about in the wacky world that is professional wrestling. And I'll share one particular story where one of my TikTok videos got semi-viral, got like 100K. And one of that videos was me talking about how David Otunga was the greatest wrestler of all time if you count WWE 13's music algorithm. And no, it was an intro for my podcast, and I was like, okay, let me just post it. I'll maybe gain like a 900 views or something, 1,000 views. I woke up the next day, 50,000 views, and then
Wow.
within hours and hours, so it was one of those things where like I was like, this is something I should do a lot more of. Obviously, doesn't make me money from it, but it's still something that I want to continue pursuing. The only thing that I've been kind of what's stopping me right now is probably consistency. So I'll post like 4 shorts a week, but then next week I'll post like maybe two. But as long as I'm putting a content every single week is something that I want to do. And also I'm happy to announce that I'm also dabbling into the video essay side of things. I'm actually going to talk about my first video essay will be up, I believe, this week, depending on whether the thumbnail is done or not. And I've already uploaded the what do you call the regular videos, you could say. The, my second video cracked like 1,000 views, which is insane. And I mean, it cracked 1,000 views, but it got a lot of dislikes from AEW haters for some weird reason. I don't know. I was like, yo, 22 dislikes. That's insane. And so it's one of those. But that video was about how it was talking about WWE's and their monopolistic view on the industry, which I mean, that was true, but they were like, nah, man, somebody in the comment section was posting the ratings about the of AEW's recent ratings as if
Mm.
like I really care. I was like, dog, I'm just talking about. But anyways, so but yeah, like it's one of those things where like the video side of things is also doing well. And let me just give somebody who's listening to this a food for thought, by the way. Did you know, and this is a statistic, did you know that barely 90% of YouTube videos barely crack 1,000 views? So if you don't want if you have a video that cracked 1,000 views, you're basically on the top 10% of YouTube. And if you have a YouTube channel that has like 110,000 total subscribers, you're also on the 10% of people. You're the 10% of people who actually has that kind of number. So just for inspiration, like whenever I have like friends who do way better
Mm.
statistics than me, they have like 20,000 subscribers and stuff. It's like, yo, I'm cracking like maybe 10,000 views. I'm like, you're in the top 10% of people who've actually made it. So yeah, so it's one of
Wow.
those things where hopefully by 2025 I want to keep on doing it more, and hopefully my
Yeah.
video essays does well. As we'll see what happens, because I've put in a lot of thought into it, a lot
Mm.
more effort into it, and I just use that as a promotion for my podcast, which is a lot more effort, but hopefully the effort is worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been great chatting to you, mate. How can people sort of like check out these video essays and sort of like follow you on TikTok and stuff like that?
So you can find me on it's on the thing best is my Blue Sky now. I'm gaining hundreds of followers. Thanks by the way, it was shout out to Haley from comicbook.com. I think she used to be on bodyslam.net. She's been shouting me out as of late, so appreciate it. She just shouted me out randomly, and I've been getting hundreds of followers because of her. So shout out to her. Like that was very nice of her. Somebody who like we're not even mutuals like that, but we're not even like friends like that, but she showed me some love, so I appreciate that. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Homer the Player Guy. You can also follow me on YouTube, which is Best Things About Wrestling, and the podcast Best Things About Wrestling. It used to be Best Things About Pro Wrestling this month, but then it was a mouthful, so I just cut it to Best Things About Wrestling. And also on TikTok, Best Things About Wrestling. Instagram, just type in Best Things About Wrestling, and you're pretty much good to go.
My man.
Excellent. Cheers, Omar. Thank you so
Cheers,
much for
Omar.
joining us,
Peace,
mate. All
brother.
power to you. All the success
Thank
with all your YouTube and TikToks and everything, mate. Have a fantastic new year.
And we proud of you, my guy.
thank you, man. I'm gonna watch the rest of the stream. So
Hey,
Excellent.
appreciate you,
Thanks,
man. Thank
mate.
you, Omar.
What a guy. What a
That's
guy. All the success to him.
Gotta love him, bro. Gotta love
Oh,
Omar.
yeah,
Nah,
brilliant.
bro. Definitely appreciate him coming on. But we do have a next guest, Martin, don't we? Our
Yeah.
next guest is in the queue.
Indeed, yeah. This show keeps on rolling, Andrew. Yeah, because joining us now, and obviously you'll know her from a variety of things. The Spinning Black Fist Pod on the Kings of Sport with 10-Day Ray, as you guys call him. She's got her own YouTube show, Chi-Chi's Combat Corner, a written work, places such as Fansided MMA, host of other things, tons of other stuff. We are delighted to be joined by Chinyere Okafor. Hey, hey.
guys.
The GOAT. The GOAT. Let's go. Let's go. What's up,
Oh my
Chinyere? How you
God.
feeling?
I'm feeling so good. Thank you so much, guys. Also, welcome back, guys. We missed you.
Hey, see, what's up, man? Like, I'm
Good to
happy
be
to see
back.
you. I'm happy to see you. It's been a long time. I think the last time you and I did a podcast together, I think when you did the guest spot on the NWA podcast. It's so good to see you. So proud of all the success you've been having. Of course, you and
Aw.
you and Two-Way Ray, aka Ray Ting. But like
Definitely.
I did want to definitely start off with asking you about that, the Spinning Black Fist Pod over on Kings of Sport. That's hosted by yourself and Two-Way Ray Williams. Talk to us about like you guys' venture into this podcasting space about combat sports. I understand that you guys also just had your podversary recently back in November.
Yay.
Like, how's that experience been with Ray? Weighing in sort of the ins and outs of the MMA/combat sports world. How's that been?
Well, first of all, like I'm an MMA fan through and through, right? I'm a wrestling fan. I'm an MMA fan. I'm a boxing fan. All of it. Anything combat sports, count me in. You know what I'm saying? Like literally right now, I'm not even at my apartment. I'm backstage at an EFC event, which is a MMA event
Wow.
here.
Let's go.
I'm actually backstage here.
Let's go.
And yeah, but when I was approached and they were like, yo, Ray, and obviously I've met him before. So it was like, yo, like we're thinking of putting you guys together. Maybe you guys can do something together for MMA. I was like, okay, cool. I'm very much out of my element. Something that's recurring is not really something that I do, but I was so excited. And I feel like, over the last year or so, Ray and I, we've gotten into such a groove with each other. And it's just so great, man. It's all about combat sports, all about MMA, right? But obviously we can't help it because we're also wrestling fans. So it always just comes
Yeah.
up. It always just comes up. But man, it's been so great. And like 1 year of us is just amazing. It's crazy.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, it's a brilliant show. Thanks so much for putting it together. What event are you at tonight then?
I was at the EFC was having a contender series. So a lot of people know of the UFC having its own contender series that happens over the course of about, say, like 2 months or so. But the EFC decided to have like a one-night situation where they just brought a bunch of amateurs. And so those people were competing, vying for, a professional contract. And yeah, basically that's what it was all about. It was the first one, so it was a bit shaky, but I feel like they can only go up from here. So super excited, and there's a lot of talent in this country and on the African continent altogether. So AFC Contender Series, I think it was worth coming for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Chinyere, I actually wanted to ask you about like, okay, so you have been covering like MMA events in person, and I know you just mentioned the EFC promotion in South Africa. Like, I remember even seeing you post something about like working with like an ESPN affiliate or something along those lines, which is very cool. Like, how much are you enjoying what you've been doing, and like, are you happy with the progression that you made, and what do you see for yourself in the future as we inch closer to 2025?
Oh man, I'm very, very happy. A lot of people don't really know how old I am, right? But I am 23. I went to the University of Johannesburg and I graduated from there with a Bachelor of Arts in Sports Communication. And it was a big gamble, especially in this country. Sports isn't really a big deal here in this country. It's not something that people study towards. It's more so something that people usually tend to stumble into. You know what I'm saying? So when I was going ahead and studying for it, it was like one of those things where people were like, are you sure about that? Are you sure you're going to actually get a job and all of that? But EFC, luckily, like as soon as I finished varsity, EFC actually took me in and I got my first job here And it's been great since then. Hey, it's been like totally, totally great. And even though I'm no longer with the EFC, I still do appreciate them, and I still love showing them love because they're doing some great things here on the African continent. And yeah, like with ESPN, I know at some point ESPN Africa Boxing was happening here, and it was just such a great showing because I got to actually get into boxing properly. I had a few blood splatter moments, but I was like, okay, so with boxing, I can't be that close to the action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I've been so happy, man. I feel like I've had a picture perfect kind of career. I've gotten to meet some of the most incredible people also, from over the world. I still do want to travel at some point, but for now, I'm getting to just know people and basically get to experience the world through different people, the likes of you guys. So, yeah.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Well, yeah, because obviously you've appeared on this show a bunch of times, haven't you? What is it, SABC?
Yeah.
Let's go, yeah.
Yeah.
Proper TV. I didn't even mention that in the intro. I was like, sort of like Googling you for the show tonight, and then a bunch of clips came up for that. I mean, is that like a sports channel over there, or you're like doing legit TV? You're not slumming it on YouTube like me and Andrew here.
Yeah, that was like on SABC, which is like basically the South African Broadcast Corporation. It's the biggest channel here in the country. And so I was there actually representing Brave Combat Federation, who are actually set to have a major event coming up next week, Friday, the 13th of December. I'm plugging them once more because I'm working with them again. So, I'm working with Brave CF as the Africa Media Relations Consultant. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun. Like I get to work with so many different people, and I get to just do some of the wildest things. Like I never expected myself to ever be on camera. I'm very, very shy. Very, very shy. Even though I might not seem like it sometimes, but I am. I'm super shy. So yeah.
I said you had just mentioned the boxing aspect and getting into that. What did you make of the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fiasco? What did you think of that?
Oh my God. So when we had Brother Nate on the show, actually, we were talking about it and just giving our predictions. And I was immediately like, yo, guys, I kind of sort of don't want to see this fight because I feel as though we might not see Mike Tyson, the Mike Tyson that you guys know. But I was also very excited because in my lifetime, Mike Tyson has only fought 5 times, right? Before the Jake Paul fight, of course. He's only fought 5 times. And all of those times happened when I was under the age of 5. So I've never actually gotten to witness a Mike Tyson fight night. I was very excited, but yeah, it was not it. I heard that Turkey Alakish, who's the guy who runs all these Saudi Arabia fights, he's actually offering Mike Tyson like about 800 million or so for like a rematch where he actually knocks out Jake Paul. So, I'd be here for that. I'd be here for that.
Definitely.
800 million must be like what Mike Tyson earned in his whole career in one fight, surely. That's ridiculous.
Insane, bro. Insane. I say,
it's a Saudi Arabia money.
I say, Martin, where we at on time, Martin? As far as Chingyere,
we got a few more minutes. Yeah,
cool. Chingyere, I actually wanted to ask you this. I know you and Ray had covered this and talked about it, and then it was kind of impossible not to. UFC 309. We had a grand entrance for a non-fighter, Donald Trump, and Dana White previously said that he didn't want politics involved in his business. He didn't want anything to do with that. Proceeded to go on a campaign trail with a politician. And then in late November, like literally, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, he did an interview with the New Yorker, and he said he wants nothing to do with politics anymore. It's disgusting, and he's never doing it again. Just watching that MMA, like that specific MMA show, that UFC 309 event, and seeing the pandering, if you will, of this particular individual, like what was that like experiencing that and watching that, especially knowing like Dana White's previous verbiage about like how he wanted to keep that out of his sport completely, and also like I think it showed a great deal about like the UFC, a majority of the UFC fan base, because like there were a lot of cheers and people going crazy in there. Like what was that overall discussion like amongst you and Ray?
When we spoke about that, obviously at the time the US elections were taking place, right? And so we were like, Dana White is doing Dana White things again once more. His flip flopping off of what he said. He's the one who was like, I don't want fighters carrying flags.
Right.
I don't want them doing all of this. And then the first opportunity he gets, Donald Trump is out here getting like a reception, like because I think they even like cued him from the entrance ramp, cued him, and then
Came off.
he walked like he had everything going for him. And I was like, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy, honestly. But yeah, I was just it's always shocking for me. It's always very, very shocking for me because I'm like, okay, it always happens every time Donald Trump is at a UFC event where he's
Right.
immediately glamorized and all of what Dana White says in terms of that he doesn't want politics involved goes out the window immediately. Immediately. And I'm just like, it's like Vince McMahon, when he's like, oh no, never, it's never gonna happen. And then years down the line, he changes his mind. But here's just that it happens every other month. Where
Right.
Dana White just decides to change his mind every other month.
Man, like I remember when it was even when I saw like the clips of it because I tuned in for the John Jones Stipe Miocic fight, but like when I saw like the clips of that, I was like that very forthcoming and very vocal about this not wanting any type of stuff involved, and then like it's always interesting seeing those dynamics and how those things play out, and I was always interested to hear you and Ray's perspective on that, and I think y'all did a great job touching on that and covering on that. And y'all two together are like a great combination. Like I always we always joke with Ray and do the whole two-way Ray thing, but like Ray is like a very great analyst, and I think you two together just make two great analysts, and I'm glad to see you two success, and congratulations on the full 1 year anniversary of spinning Black
1
Fist
year
on Kings of
spinning
Sport.
Black Fist, baby.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, guys.
No, thank
problem,
you for joining
Shane Ray.
us. Other than spinning Blackfist, is there anything else you want to plug before we let you get out of here?
Yeah, a few things actually. Oh my God, why am I so busy? But anyway, so last word on pro wrestling. I am a writer and an editor over there, so do check out my work there sometimes, and also check out other people's work because I might have edited it. You know what I'm saying? So do check that out. Brave Combat Federation in Bahrain, they have their big Brave International Combat Week. And so check out that and check out Brave CF91 specifically, which takes place on Friday the 13th of December 2024, live from Isa Town, Bahrain. And yeah, basically, my channel, snap, sorry. Please also check out my channel, guys. My YouTube channel, where I interview MMA fighters, but I'm also trying to bring in wrestlers and boxers and other people within the industries, you know what I'm saying? So do check it out. The name of it is Chiju's Comeback Corner. So yeah, I think that's about it.
There you go, man. And one last cheap plug before we wrap with this one, Martin. If you want to hear some more Chinyere, episode 13, Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure, Pro Wrestling Gorilla, Black Cold Sun. We got over an hour of Chinyere. So if you want to hear that, go check that out on the postwrestling.com website. There you go. That's all I got.
You better go check it out.
And there you go.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you have a good holiday season and New Year.
Peace, Chinyere.
Yeah. Wow, Andrew, all these guests are making me feel so lazy. They've got so much going on in their lives and
killing it, man. Everybody's killing it. And Martin, is our next guest in the queue because she is killing it as well, man. Is our next guest in the queue? So she joined us for the 4th episode of Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure, where we covered New Japan Pro Wrestling, King of Pro Wrestling 2016. You can check out our video/audio content over at the Sonal is Live YouTube channel, where she is nearing 3,000 subscribers, Martin, at wrestling_chat on socials. This is Sonal Lab, Martin. Boom!
Welcome.
Let's go. Oh, you on mute, Sonal?
That always happens if you watch and then I'm still on mute. Thanks for having me, guys, on this special stream video.
It's good.
Thanks for coming on.
It's good to see you. How you doing? It's good to see you.
I'm doing well. How are you both doing?
Doing excellent.
Well, I imagine you're like everyone else in the UK and you're absolutely soaked after today. I don't know about in Manchester, but in Sheffield, I've got soaked about 4 times today because we're having, I don't know, Andrew, I didn't tell you before we started the show, but we seem to be having the most rain we've had all year in one day over in the UK. So trying to get to work today and stuff. I know it's probably the same where Sonal is, but yeah, it's been absolutely chucking it down all day.
I mean, I can say that's one of the perks of working from home, is that I don't have to go out into the awful weather. So I think for that reason, I'm grateful.
So now we did have you on the King of Pro Wrestling 2016 edition of Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure. We are nearing Wrestle Kingdom 19 and Wrestle Dynasty. NJPW is currently wrapping up their 2024 World Tag League Tournament. We got Tanahashi's retirement coming up in January 2026. Zack Sabre Jr. is finally the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Can we get Sonal's temperature check on New Japan Pro Wrestling right now, the product? How do you feel things are going as we head into Dome season?
Honestly, I think I'm always optimistic. So I'm probably more optimistic than most people have been about New Japan throughout the year. Because I know maybe if you'd have asked a lot of people at the start, there was a lot of up and downs coming off Wrestle Kingdom this year. However, this point, I think I wouldn't say like at the strongest it's been, but they're really setting up for the future. I think if you've seen what they've been doing the past few months, if you look at the cards for Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty, they've kind of, you could say they should have done this earlier on, but they're really realizing that, right, they need to look at the future of the company, not just in terms of like the Reiwa Musketeers, but like what they've done with Zack. And I think even if you watch this World Tag League, there's a lot of new teams coming, because I think the temperature check right now is New Japan are realizing that they need to they need to get a new set of top stars. And I guess you could say took enough time, but I mean, rather sooner than later. I mean, it could have been worse.
Right. Hey, real quick, how did you feel about the reaction to Shota Umino? Like the crowd clearly knew at Power Struggle that he was probably going to be challenging Zack at the Dome. And like, I was kind of honestly surprised at like how they reacted. So it wasn't like a big surprise, but I wasn't expecting like that like robust amount of cheers. And and the thing about the New Japan crowd, as I'm sure you know, like they'll let you know, like these different crowds in different areas, and like they'll let you know like if they're not feeling some on that. And I don't think they were feeling Shota Umino, like the idea of him being in the main event. Like what was your perception of that? And also it kind of lends to your point about New Japan realizing like we kind of gotta start putting guys like in these positions where the crowd won't react to them in that manner. But also like it's been other guys who have gone through that similar type of response as well.
Shota's an odd one. Now I'm gonna like link this to when I went to Royal Quest, and Shota was there, and he had a match, and they were cheering him at the start. He had against Callum Newman. They were cheering him at the start, and then towards the end, then for some reason the crowds turned on him. As he got the pin, then suddenly there was booing, and that was similar to what happened at Power Struggle. He had the match with Sonada. He won. People were cheering. The match itself was literally whoever, like if Shota wins, he gets a shot at Zack Sabre Jr. So the crowds were cheering. But then when he challenged, they were booing him. So Shota's a really odd one, because I feel like through the matches, the crowds are cheering them. But when it comes to the big storylines, something isn't hitting. And I don't know if it's suddenly they're like, oh, maybe it's not right to like Shota. We need to boo it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I personally don't have an issue with Shota. I've watched him from a young lion. When he came to the UK on excursion, I was watching him at Rev Pro shows, and I don't think he's a bad wrestler. He's not. His character's not been the best, but he's not the worst character in New Japan. So it is very interesting, because it's like they're not even using this whole nepotism. You know, obviously, it's a stretch for nepotism because it's very. But I feel like it's a weird, like, why are you so mean to Shota? No offense. If you're going to look at the forum, maybe Ren Narita might need some criticism there. But I guess maybe it's because Ren isn't getting pushed to the lengths that Shota is. Yeah,
that makes sense. You got something, Martin?
Well, I was going to say, we're talking about controversies with New Japan fans, and we were talking about, obviously, Zack Sabre Jr. being the heavyweight champion now. How did you feel about during that whole period of Mr. John Moxley being the IWGP champ. I know there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, it's something new for the belt, and it's this and that and the other." But there were a lot of sort of like diehard New Japan fans who were like, "Well, no, because he's not going to be there all the time. He's not really sort of like a homegrown guy and things like that." What were your feelings about Mox's sort of like brief dalliance with the belt earlier this year?
Right, I'm not gonna lie, and I'm gonna put some blame on myself here. When Moxley first won the belt, I was excited. I saw the tweets and people said, "Oh, he's going to do this." And my naive little brain, I'm like, well, John Moxley loves New Japan. Whenever he comes, he's always so excited. He's worked from the Indies. He went to WWE. He's come like he loves New Japan. I mean, I kind of like bit myself in the foot there. I shouldn't have been so. I was defending him, and yeah, unfortunately, as everyone thought and everyone told me, and I refused to believe, it was similar. It was similar to when Kenny won the US title, you know, when he wasn't part of that. And it's like, you hope that wrestler has enough of a love for New Japan to be in the country, to be coming to shows, and it just fell flat. And I think that maybe started the major stream of New Japan hating John Moxley. Do you know what I mean? Just generally. And then who knows, maybe that was linked to the hatred of Shota Umino, because Shota is still riding on John Moxley to this day, whether it's from like he doesn't really wear the jacket as much, but you know, his finisher and stuff. So yeah. I'm not directly saying that Shota's being hated because of John Moxley, but if you look at the timings, you know what I mean? It was after John Moxley's sort of reign that the criticism for Shota really became even more heightened than I thought.
Like, so, like, sort of bouncing off with the question Martin posed, like, there was, like, an interview that Naito did. Like, I think it was definitely prior to him losing the IWGP World title to Zack. And he mentioned that he likes Zack, or he loves having Zack in New Japan. And the reason he didn't want Zack to get the title was because he didn't want him to accomplish his goals so early. And, you know, I'm pretty, like, Naito, he's, like, very, like, in character, out of character with these interviews, like blurs the lines. But I think he did make a very interesting point where he was like, you know, like Jay White has done, Ospreay has done, Kenny has done, where these beloved foreigners or whether they're beloved amongst the crowd or not, like they fit well within the entity of New Japan, and they come there, they get to the top spot, and you know they main event the Dome, and then after some time they'll move on. And he was concerned that Zack getting the belt, got the Dome coming up, going to headline it, maybe he'll do the same. Like, what's sort of your stance on those thoughts? And do you think there could be a scenario where Zack could end up moving on to the US? But also Zack has seemingly fully committed to New Japan. Like, he's moved there and like he's all in. Like, what's sort of your stance on that, and Naito's thoughts about the possibility of him doing what Jay has done, Ospreay has done, Kenny has done?
So, as everyone knows, it seems like everyone that I love from New Japan who are the foreigners have ended up leaving. Jay White, Okada, and they took Aussie Open and things like that. And in one sense, it's always going to be sort of inevitable for foreigners because whether you're from America or here in the UK, the travel from here to Japan is very long. The tours in New Japan, as they'll say, they're very intense for, I guess, what you get paid, especially if you're not at the top of the card. And for guys like Jay, obviously Jay's married, his wife is American, it makes sense. Ospreay has a family. It is easier for him to be out in the States with his family here in the UK. But Zack, again, is a different person because Zack has had big opportunities to sign with big companies. We saw he had WWE after the Cruiserweight Classic. And I assume even now people are asking for him. I know people can say what everyone says they're going to say. I don't know. For some reason, I feel Zack is different. Like you said, he's made a home in Japan. And I think, and I've said this on other things, and it's no hate to Zack. Zack is at a really odd age. If you think about it, Will and Jay are still fairly young. So they were like late 20s, early 30s. Zack is, I think, late 30s, early 40s. His style, I think, is very specific. It works in specific places. And I think Zack knows that in New Japan, he is always going to be one of those guys. Even before he won the title, while he was never, like, I guess, top guy, he always had big matches, always had great matches. He was always loved. I think Zach knows that if he needs to if he's going to be in a place where they appreciate his wrestling, because if anyone knows Zach and knows his style, they know that he's always been doing something he loves, what he believes in, rather than money. I feel like Japan is that place, because I don't know we're not here to talk about WWE, but if you talk about WWE, I mean WWE and AEW, especially AEW, they have a lot of top stars to the point where you say the top of the card is saturated. And in Zach's mind, he thinks, okay, I could go AEW. I'll have a lot less matches. Hell, we've seen Okada has a lot less matches, a lot less vigorous stuff than he did in New Japan. And Zach goes, but if I go there, am I going to be able to showcase what I believe in, the wrestling that I love, the wrestling he's done since he was a teenager? So I guess you can never say never, because people's circumstances change and stuff. But I don't see Zach leaving anytime soon. Whereas maybe with Ospreay and Jay, they were young. And also I think Jay's character specifically, obviously as a big Jay White fan, I think it works well for those companies like AEW and WWE, where he's very character based. Zach, while he's a great character in New Japan and everyone loves him, is it going to work the same in like the Western promotions?
Fair point.
Yeah, and like, I think I totally agree with you, because Zach's gone all in out of the Brit guys. Anthony Ospreay was back over doing Red Pro shows all the time while he was signed with New Japan, weren't he? Zach hardly does any, if like one a year maybe. He'll do this sort of like big one in August or whatever. But yeah,
or he'll do like the World Quest. He'll come over and do shows around that time when he's here for New Japan.
Yeah. Well, it's been great chatting to you as always. We didn't mention even your podcast with on True Heel Heat. So where can people find out more from you? YouTube channel, your podcast, and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, so make sure to follow me on Twitter at wrestling_chat, so you can see when I'm on with SP3 and J News on True Heel Heat. Make sure to subscribe to Sonal's Life. I didn't plug this, but I'm actually going to Japan in January. I have tickets for Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty. So make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to have vlogs, reviews, and everything up from like a very hectic 2 weeks. I've got a week in Japan, a week in Korea, but a very hectic few days.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
You will have an absolute brilliant time. Been to Japan. It's an incredible place. Great food, great people. Yeah, you'll have an amazing time. So yeah, have a fantastic new year out there, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, Sonal.
See ya. Oh, wow, another great guest. All these guests are making me feel old now, Andrew. I remember Chinyeri talking about she was only alive for 5 Mike Tyson fights. What was it Omar saying he was only 16 in 2016? I was like, wow, I'm feeling like the old granddad right now.
Hey, man, that youngest in charge nickname, that thing's slipping away, boy. I'm trying to tell, like, but hey, when Chinyeri said she was 23, I was like, golly, man. I'm 2 years out from 30, brother. That youngest in charge movement is about to be done. But
they're leaving us in the smoke there.
Andrew, we cook, brother. We cook. This over. but our next guest, man, like nothing short of great success is going to continue the trend of individuals that we've had so far on the podcast. This is someone whose work I'm extremely fond of. Great written, audio, video work all around. Host of Maps and Graps, collaborated with Pro Wrestling Illustrated on the PWI Women's 250. Someone I enjoy hearing from at Media Scrums. She's done interviews with the likes of Willow Nightingale, Mina Shirakawa, Kevin Knight, ROH Women's World Champion Athena, and more. This is Lyric Swinton. Lyric.
Hey.
What's going on, Lyric? How you feeling?
I'm good. Do I sound stuffy? I was sick this week, so.
You sound great. You sound great.
Cool.
I hope you feel better, too.
Thank you.
How's life? How life treating you right now?
It's cold. We're growing. We're just holding on, man. That's all I got right now. But fun times.
Yeah, I feel you for sure. Like, so you have accomplished a great deal in the wrestling media space. Big things in 2024, and I'm sure it'll continue in 2025. How do you feel about the past year in particular, about your wrestling, writing, podcasting work / career?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. To be quite honest, seriously, I feel kind of conflicted about it, because I feel like I traveled a lot this year, but I didn't get to do as much international travel as I did last year. And so like that's slightly disappointing. I have like very high standards for myself. I push myself very, very hard. But I am proud of the work that I did this year. as far as like, I used to be a person, like I was doing like media type stuff and podcasting like before, like I officially did it for wrestling, and I would never be able to hear myself back. Like I've done a TED talk and I hate listening to it. Like I don't like listening to my own work. I don't like reading my own work. But this is like the first time like I actually like I really rewatched my work. I'm like, wow, that interview was great. And so that's been really cool. Kind of like coming to peace with myself and the work that I'm making. And for me to be able to acknowledge that some of it is good, that's a huge step for me. So I'm really proud. I'm proud of the stuff that got published in PWI twice this year, which was crazy. You know, I started the year in Japan. That's what we kicked off. So I'm just really blessed and grateful, but I'm hungry, you know, just hungry for more, what the future is going to come. I have so many goals for myself. So yeah, the best is still yet to come.
I mean, Andrew mentioned all your great work there. We've got to talk about this article about Sandy Parker, who was obviously, for people who don't know, the first Black woman to become a world champion. And that was a real eye-opener for me reading that. The sort of like, did you release it a couple of weeks ago? How much she'd done and how much she doesn't get the plaudits she deserves. I mean, that was a brilliant article.
Yeah, so it's so crazy, and I said it in the article. I had so many articles about Sandy Parker just sitting in like open tabs on my phone, because like a long-term project that I was planning on doing is doing a history of women's wrestling in South Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. And you can't talk about that without the Fabulous Moolah. And Sandy and the Fabulous Moolah were notably intertwined. Sandy was one of the rare people at that time to stand up to Fabulous Moolah and really just not participate, you know, in a lot of the shady dealings that she was doing at that time. And so I had always had that in the back of my mind. That's what I knew her for. But when she passed away and kind of like learning more about her, I like the Japan connection really stood out to me, because, you know, I've recently been doing like research into All Japan Women's Era. Myself and Sierra did a great episode talking about breaking down Queen of Villains, the recent series on Netflix, the story of Dump Matsumoto and 80s All Japan Women's Wrestling, Crush Gals, the women of that era. And so that's been an interest of mine. So finding out that she was like, you know, the first Black woman to be WWA world champion, you know, I can't say that I grew up watching her work. Most of her stuff isn't available. But what I can say is that I've seen the descendants of her work, you know, especially going back to Wrestle Kingdom 17. And you have the debut of Mercedes in the Tokyo Dome, and you have Willow winning at Resurgence, and Awesome Kong and Aja Kong. Like last year, I got to see Aja Kong in Charlotte, main event, the Ashe show versus Trish Adora. And so you see all these things. And so even though you may not know her name, you've seen her lineage. And so that's why it was really important for me to write that. And I think like, not just for other people to know, I think it was important for me to write that for me, you know, of just, I look back now and I'm like, when I went to Japan, I was like, not just, I'm like the only Black person doing media, like one of the only women doing media. And so like, I stand directly on those shoulders, the opportunities that I've gotten, you know, especially over the past 2 years, you know, really pursuing wrestling. And so I think it was just important to like, kind of like draw the lines for people of like how all of these things are connected, even if you might not know her directly by name.
Like one thing that I've always like admired about you as a writer and a journalist is how you handle criticism. And I've seen a lot of, and like even just from you just giving your wrestling opinions, a lot of like, you know, people feeling very comfortable about saying things about individuals on social media. You know, I'm pretty sure you know how that go. Like people, they have this thing where they feel a little too comfortable saying some things. And like, I've always enjoyed how you handled that, digested that, and then responded to that. And also like, I like the mix of you just straight up carrying people. That's always a good time as well. But like, how do you sort of balance that to also make sure that it doesn't affect your mental, you know, because individuals, like they do this like pile on thing, and a lot of it, most of the time, and you can honestly see it, it has nothing to do with wrestling. Individuals just want to, you know, do those little microaggressions and things like that they love to do. But like, how have you been able to sort of balance that and also not let it affect your mental, like the opinions of individuals that you don't know personally on social media, having them, have these insane responses to just a wrestling opinion.
Yeah, that's something I've been battling with, and a lot, I would say, particularly this year. It's just like I felt like my first year, people pretend to be excited that you're in the business. I think also too, in the sense of when you look at wrestling as a whole, there's very few spaces for women. There's very few spaces for black people. You put being a black woman together, and then you do an alternative and international wrestling and not mainstream stuff. Yeah, that like puts a target in your back. So like, I think the second year, like the criticisms really, really like started kicking up. And I will be honest, like it got to me. I got really paranoid and it got really hard. And that's part of the reason why I left Twitter. And it just was affecting my mental health to the point to where I had to remind myself why I originally got into this. Like what a lot of people don't know is that like I went to school with the intentions of working in wrestling. I have a degree in sport and entertainment management from the #1 sports science institution in the country. And I didn't do anything with it when I first graduated because I was so dissuaded. I was just like, like wrestling doesn't really have a space for me. Like I remember applying to internship programs. I'm like, nobody who looked like me would ever get it. And I would just kind of like gave up on it. And so when I got back into wrestling, like I told myself, like, if you're going to do this, like you can't be deterred. Like when I turned 25, that was when I started content. And I was like, for 1 year, you're going to throw everything you have at the wall, travel, writing, podcasting, do it all. If it works, you keep going. If you fail, you just go do something else. And so like, obviously I felt like I succeeded enough to keep going. And I just had to keep reminding myself of that, of just like, I worked too hard to like let strangers on the internet deter me. Like I know what I wanted to do. It took me a long time to get the confidence to really, do what I wanted to do. Like I've always been a great speaker, always been a great writer. I've always been like a fairly, known as a leader, both in my community and my schools and everything like that. But it took me a while to like pursue my own passions like this. So it's just like, I had to really remind myself that once I set my sights on something, nobody's going to stop me. And just kind of like reminding myself who I am. And I think also to build a community too, of just like building community amongst other, I would say Gen Z women in the space has been so helpful. Like Danny, who does the Black Girl Wrestling, like we started doing like the Dynamite after show together, and it was so healing, and she's just amazing. And I think that Black Girl Wrestling, I'm so glad that space exists, and that's why, like, specifically for that Sandy Parker article, I published that there, because I think it's important to have a space where we can tell these nuanced stories that I think that wrestling media always typically misses, or doesn't give things, I would say, the full view that it deserves. And so really just building community. And I think what's also really helped is just like going to shows and people come up to me and it's weird. Like people will come and take pictures with me and I'm like, huh? And they'll be like, well, I don't feel, they'll say like, well, I didn't feel comfortable talking about wrestling or anything like that until I saw you do it. And like, you went to Japan, so I want to go to Japan this year. Like you did this, so I'm going to do this. Or like, I started my podcast because of you. And so like, it reminds me that there are people watching me, and like and that's so much more important than any of these, bots on the internet. Like there's so many more people in the space now that look like me talking about what they love than there was this time last year. So like, I don't claim to be like the end all be all or anything, but I do realize that representation is important and it matters. And whether I like it or not, I do have a responsibility to set an example, to at least not fold under pressure. And so that's still a learning experience, but I've definitely gotten better.
Oh, yes, I'm Mark.
No, yeah, wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that must be absolutely brilliant for you, people coming up and saying, you're an inspiration for me. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean,
it's scary. I started to burst out crying. Like it's really weird. Like I burst out crying at Forbidden Door. Like I was in the bathroom just sobbing. I was just like, what is happening? I'm very not used to this. Like, South Carolina, we don't have a wrestling community or anything like here. So it's just like going far away and like people coming up to me like, like in different countries and cities. Like I actually like freaks me out a little bit, but it is really nice. It's just a lot sometimes.
So Leah,
Before we let you get out of here, did you come to London this year for AEW?
No, and I'm very sad.
I thought you.
I went
you
last
come
year.
to-
So I was at the first All In.
Right. Okay. Got you.
But I wasn't back at. I went to London
No.
twice last year, actually. And I wasn't able to go this year. But I am determined to be at Forbidden Door next year. So you'll see me again.
There you go. One last thing I did want to ask you about, Larry. I want to definitely get your thoughts about this. So there was a portion of the AEW Full Gear presser when Bobby Lashley was asked a question, and the verbiage of Black World Champion was used to describe a previous accolade that he had from when he was in WWE. You know, Lashley. I just want to make sure to credit Kate from Fightful who asked the question, and Lashley was. You know, he expressed that he wasn't big on the Black World Champion label, and you know, he expressed that he wanted to just be champion, world champion, and that's it. I was just wondering how you felt about the response, the question, and you know, just the overall conversation that sparked afterwards on social media. Because I felt like people, they're not every. I'm let me not say everybody, but there were a subsection of people that may have taken what he was saying out of context in terms of like, oh look, he says it like it doesn't matter, so it doesn't like. But I don't think he was saying that. I think it was more so just Lashley saying like, I think we have progressed past the point, but also at the same time, like I think that word when that description of calling somebody a Black World Champion, it means a lot to a lot of people, including myself, including you. I just want to get your general assessment of that whole situation.
Yeah. So I feel two ways about it. Number one, I think that people have to understand that Blackness is not a monolith. And that is also one of the, I don't want to say drawbacks, but it's one of the symptoms of having a more diverse wrestling economy. Because we have so many more Black major players now, we are going to be susceptible to many more definitions of what it means to be Black in wrestling. There are so many characters now across so many promotions doing so many different things. And guess what? Everybody does not think the same. And that's okay. Everybody has the right to their own opinions because guess what? No one person speaks on behalf of all Black people. And that goes for everything. But the second way I feel about it is that I do think that a lot of people missed some of what he was saying. He said that, you know, you saw I did it and you saw Swerve did it. And so we've normalized it. So we don't have to put that label on there anymore. In the sense of, I feel like a lot of the story that has been told in AEW specifically as it relates to the Hurt business has been show, don't tell. The reason why they are there is because they felt that in another company, they were not given their just due for something that was clearly working. So they are leading by showing you you have Black wrestlers wrestling on TV and primetime slots every single week. They're getting time every single week. All of the things that they said weren't being done somewhere else is being done here. And so I feel like they're trying to take more of a show, don't tell approach. I think of the sense of they're not going to say of like, this is for representation, etc. That's on us to say, to talk about. I think that they're just doing the work. And I think that a lot of Black wrestlers, and I've even had conversation with some Black wrestlers, you know, and saying this in the sense of the word Black in front of their names has a lot of time been used to put a ceiling on how far it can go. And I think that I feel like that was what he was trying to say, is in the sense of there's no limit of, you know, what it can look like to be a world champion.
Right.
I probably would have phrased the question just a slightly differently. Like, for example, you had Private Party who had just been in the scrum and they talked about like how cool it was to be on the same card as somebody like Shelton Benjamin MVP. So I probably would have like said something along those lines. Like, how did it feel, you know, to be like, you know, you're in this primetime slot, you know, surrounded by all these people you directly inspired, right? I think that we could have kind of got to similar conclusions using that question, but I don't think the question itself was bad at all. And I think that some people are purposefully obtuse. At the end of the day, they left the most popular company in the world. They're going to get drawback for that no matter what they do.
Yeah.
And so some people are just they're looking to nitpick every little thing. And guess what? They couldn't nitpick the match. They can't nitpick the booking. So you got to find something else. And so, but at this point, it's a part of the game. You know how the tricks go. So, but that's just my views on it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Really, really interesting, insightful discussion. So for some of our sort of like viewers and listeners, where can they sort of like find more of your writing, more of your YouTube channel and all that good stuff?
Yes, you can find me at Lyric Wrestling on Instagram and Blue Sky with the bluesky.social stuff on there. And you can find me on YouTube at Lyric Swinton, and that'll have all the podcast interviews and stuff that I've done. And in my link tree and everything, linktree/Lyric Wrestling, you can find all my writings and all that jazz.
Appreciate you coming on, Lyric.
Us, yeah. All the best to you. Have a great new year.
Let's go. Thank you, Lyric. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Peace.
Oh, another fantastic guest.
Another excellent guest. Good Lord, man. Everybody killing it. You see this? Look at this, man. This is beautiful.
Oh, I know. Excellent. And they keep coming. They keep coming, Andrew. Because our next guest is up in the waiting room now. Joining us from Daily DDT, among many other things, is Mr. Chris Jeter.
Chris.
Yes, how you doing? One quick correction for you there, Martin. My last name is short E, so it's Jeter.
I knew I was going to pick the wrong one. I was like, is it the Yankee shortstop or the Jet? And I got it wrong. I apologize, mate.
No,
but,
it's fine. You wouldn't be the first.
Chris, so you were on episode 14 of Bushby and Thompson's Wrestling Adventure, the King of the Ring 2002 edition.
Yes, I remember having to watch that bad show.
Do you have any recollection of when yourself, Martin, Chad, and we reread the article that Chris Jericho wrote about people criticizing his match against RVD and him being pissed off? Do you have any recollection of that?
I remember us all coming to the conclusion that was actually the best match on that show.
Right.
Which was ironic. That was the ironic thing about it, which is like, this was the best match on the show, like by a mile.
Mm-hmm. I'm about to say, but what's going on in your world, Chris? How you feeling, man? How's work going? How's life going? How life treating you?
I'm doing okay. I was generally just doing okay. How about you guys, man? It's been a while.
Martin?
Yeah, all good, mate. Yeah, just I was saying earlier, we were having like massive rainfall over here in the UK, so I've been like a drowned rat all day. So it's good to be indoors and all warmed up now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, we mentioned at the start you've had some great articles for Daily DDT this year. A good two-piece that you had recently, sort of which wrestlers are great title chasers and then which make great champions. I just wanted to go through some of the picks here because there's a few that I feel like a lot of people are going to agree with. This is in the title chasers who make better title chasers than champions. And so we've got Adam Page, I think, yeah. Probably he didn't have the greatest, did he? Now of run with the belt. Sami Zayn definitely more of a chaser, but one that really struck me is Steve Austin in there. I mean, obviously he had some great chasers with the belt, but I also feel like he had a good run on top with the title as well. What was the thinking in picking old Stone Cold for that article?
So that was probably the trickiest one. Because to be clear, for that one and for the one that I wrote not too long ago about the which wrestlers made great champions, I didn't pick like the three that I thought were the absolute best. I thought I just picked three that I think particularly stood out to me at that point. With Austin, in terms of his runs, I think I agree with you that his chases to the titles were pretty compelling, but when you look at a lot of his runs as champion, particularly like in 98 and 99, they weren't particularly long, and I think I think that the main issue, not the main issue, but the main thing that I kept coming back to is that he never really had like that great. Obviously he had the feud with Vince and everything, but he, in terms of like in-ring competition, he never really had that great heel foil to go up against. Like it was always like a proxy for Vince, like in 98 and 99. And his reigns weren't very long. It was around that era where they did a lot of title changes on TV for ratings stuff, and to get pops from the crowd and everything. So I think a lot of that diluted his reigns. Obviously, his first sustained reign as champion didn't come until like after he turned heel, I think, in 2001. So it was more so looking at it from that standpoint. Like I think he was a compelling champion. Obviously, he was a compelling wrestler. Obviously, but I think when you look at his chases to the championship versus the actual reigns that he had, I think that not necessarily leaving something to be desired, but he never really had that sort of definitive long reign that like champions in WWE tended to have.
Yeah, so,
that's some great points. Yeah, I'd not even considered that, because you sort of think, like when you think Stone Cold, you think, oh, that hot period in wrestling, he had that great feud with Vince, but it's like you said, he didn't really. They were all proxies for Vince, weren't they? I'd not really thought about it that way.
Yeah,
before.
because it was
a brilliant point. Yeah,
his first feud after 98 was Dude Love. And then after that, I think he dropped the title to Kane in that first blood match or whatever, and then he won it right back. And then they stripped him of the title, and then they did that tournament, the Deadly Games tournament at Survivor Series, and that started his chase of Vince and The Rock. And then he dropped it back again, and then he had that feud. Then they had that match at King of the Ring with Vince and Shane, where they fought over the CEO position or whatever. So there were a lot of truncated reigns in the middle. And then, of course, obviously he went away and he had the neck surgery, and then he came back, and then he turned, and then he won the title, and he was champion for a while. And I think it was just a lot of reigns like that where they were just broken up, and you just never had that lengthy, consistent title reign where he faced a bevy of challengers. Like you didn't see a reign like the reign that Cody's having right now, or the reign that Cena had in 2007, something like that.
So Chris, not only do you cover wrestling, my man, also covering basketball. Some of your work is featured on Hoops Habit. I gotta ask you about this. My Cavs, man, we 19-3. Your Chicago Bulls, 9-13, 9th in the East.
The scrappy Chicago
Bulls. Chris, your early assessment of the Chicago Bulls season thus far.
It's been more interesting than I expected it to be. Like, I did not come into the season with any expectations given. I didn't like the straight up Caruso trade for Josh Giddey for a number of reasons. But I think this first couple of months of the season have been a good showcase for Vooch and Levine. It's been the best case scenario in terms of how they've played and how engaged they've been on the floor, and how fast the team has played. And even then, they're still 9-13, which I think should be a signal to the front office to blow this up and try to trade these guys and try to get assets back and try to maintain that pick that could go to the Spurs as a result of the DeRozan sign and trade from a couple of years back. But it's been fun watching them so far. Kobe White's had a nice year to start the season. And, Ayo Dosunmu has played well to start the year on both ends of the floor. It's been really encouraging watching him, as a driver going downhill, even if it's a little uneven at times. And it's even gotten to the point where I think in a lot of games, Billy Donovan has just been like, all right, you're going to go out here and you're going to take Josh Giddey's minutes because he can't shoot and he can't defend, and you can at least defend on the other end of the floor. But it's been more fun than I thought it would be. At some point they're gonna have to try to trade Levine, and they're gonna try and trade Vooch, and they're gonna try to have to tank for this pick, particularly in this draft, which projects to be a good draft for a deep draft for good prospects. But I've enjoyed what I've seen so far, and that's more than what I thought I'd get out of this team to start the year, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking American sports, before we let you get out of here, Chris, it's been an interesting one for me with NFL. I've sort of I've got a lot of relatives that live in the New Jersey, New York area, so by proxy, I ended up, having my team of the Giants chosen for me. But not really followed it from a distance. But the last couple of years, I've been doing fantasy football, which I've been really enjoying. And we have it's Sunday night over here in the UK, when all the games are on and everything, and I'm gearing up to get to work on a Monday, and I'm a bit low and depressed. And then I look at my fantasy football scores, and I'm like, oh, this man, Lamar Jackson, every Sunday, never lets me down. Always puts a smile on my face every Sunday night leading into work. I mean, you're a big Ravens fan. I mean, he's got to be in the conversation for MVP again, surely. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, he puts a smile on your face. Imagine I'm a Ravens fan. So, it's been a real joy watching him play, and he's certainly one of the front runners for MVP. I would say he's the front runner for MVP. I know that there's been a lot of fervor over, what Saquon Barkley has done and what Derrick Henry has done, his Texas teammate. And, obviously Josh Allen is going to be in the discussion because the Bills are 9-2. And, there's the argument that he's been doing so much with so little relative to what that team has had in the past. But I mean, Lamar Jackson has been, in my estimate, it's a bit biased for me, but I think he's been the best quarterback in football this year. I mean,
that's no bias. That's fact.
Yeah. I mean, just watching him every week, it was a bit shaky. Not necessarily shaky. I don't think he played poorly against Philadelphia, but just watching him, his command of the offense, his ability to just do something indescribable almost every game. Yeah. It just it feels like he has a new, just inexplicable highlight every week, and it's a joy to watch.
Hey, Chris, real quick before we before we let you plug your socials and your work that you have right now, I want to ask you to follow up on the Lamar thing. Do you feel, because I kind of feel this way, I feel like there are a lot of expectations placed on Lamar that some of his colleagues don't face, that doesn't get brought up as often. I've seen this conversation about, if Lamar doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, is his the build up or the hype considered a failure or whatever, where I see a Josh Allen doesn't get that same type of pushback. But I feel like with Lamar, people have this this thing that I was just wondering if I'm off base with that, or have you kind of seen those similar conversations as well?
No, I've seen it plenty. I've seen the uneven double standard, as if it were. Again, every time I think of the double standard between Lamar and Josh Allen in terms of their style of play, I think of that scene in Elvis where I have that clip from the movie Elvis where Tom Hanks is being told by someone about Elvis's music playing, and the guy says, "Yeah, but here's the thing, he's white," and he's like, "He's white," and then it just hits him, "Oh, he's white." So that's the thing that always pops to the top of my head, at least when it comes to Josh Allen, who I think is a tremendous quarterback, and I love watching Josh Allen play. But I think that's always going to be an aspect of it, even if it's not at the forefront. And I think just a lot of it is also that it's it just seems to be very lucrative to talk negatively about Lamar Jackson. It's probably lucrative to talk about negatively about a lot of players, but I mean, it gets. I mean, a lot of these national shows, I think they know that they can get a lot of clicks and they can get a lot of. They certainly get a lot of fervor and consternation locally whenever whenever they talk, out the side of their mouths about Lamar. But I think it's a combination of things, but I think those two things are like at the forefront of it.
Thank you so much for joining us, mate. Anywhere where people could read more of your stuff and check more of Chris out?
Sure. You can check out all my pieces over at Daily DDT if you want to check me out on the wrestling side. As far as socials, I'm on X at CJet91. I don't post there as often as I used to. I've been more so on Blue Sky. So you can check me out there as well. You can check me out there. I believe it's CJet91 is CJetter91 is the Blue Sky account. And I've been doing, I talk a little bit of wrestling over there, and I've been posting like some NBA clips too, and just sort of breaking stuff down there. So you can check me out if you want to get that sort of content.
Well, my man.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate you taking the time, mate. Always good chatting with you.
No
Have a great
problem.
holiday season.
Thanks for coming on, Chris.
You do the same. No problem.
Peace, brother.
Cheers. Another fantastic guest there. Love
it's rolling.
NFL chatting there. It is rolling. Let's keep it rolling with you want to intro our next guest that a lot of our I think a lot of our viewers will recognize here.
we gonna I'm gonna put this individual over when he's on screen. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our man, the man, Neil Flanagan.
Hey guys,
my man Neil, what's up, brother?
Bushby and Thompson back together, and it feels so good.
Hell yeah!
I'm here to raise the average age because I've been watching this whole show. I hopped
You're telling me, Neil. You're telling me, mate.
Man, these young people in their early 20s. Well, now you've got me. I'm 50, so. Yeah,
I'm not far behind you, mate. I'm 43 in January, so but yeah, just like behind. Yeah, this hey, all these 20-year-olds have got their heads screwed on, their careers in mind, they're focused. They're me.
I know.
When I was in my 20s, I was I'm surprised. I'm still alive now. Just going out all the time.
When I had just graduated, I was still like, so what's gonna be? What's my life gonna be at this point? And there's Thompson, worried about approaching 30. Come on, man.
Hey, man. So let me say this real quick about this man Neil. Me and Neil, we joke a lot when we have our conversations about wrestling or whatever. Let me tell y'all something about this man, right? I work with Neil on the Post Wrestling site, and he is legitimately one of the most dependable individuals that I've ever had the opportunity to write with. And I'm being like dead ass serious right now. I like Neil. I always have like the utmost respect for Neil as a writer because he lives in a completely different time zone. So when a lot of these shows happen, it is like dead ass the crack of dawn in the morning, and especially when you consider the post shows and after shows that go to like 2, 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning sometimes. And he does like an amazing job making sure that these things are like covered to the gills and everything is broken down. And he also goes out of his way to do like written reports along with the individual news notes. Like if I'm ever like jammed up news wise, like I can hit up Neil, and again, the time zone difference, it'll be like 8 o'clock my time, but it's damn near 1 in the morning or 12 a.m. his time. And I'll be like, bro, I'm kind of swamped up right now. Can you come like help me with this real quick? But I get a DM back in like 20 seconds. I got you. Like, bro, like this is one of the best individuals that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. One of the most hardworking people that I've had the opportunity to work with. This is the man right here. I love working with Neil. I'm glad to be working alongside him, and I'm glad that he's with Post Wrestling. So Much love to you, man. I wanted to make sure that I wanted to give you your flowers while you were on screen because I like I don't want you to think I'm being like so damn serious right now.
I know you are, yeah.
I genuinely appreciate you as a writer and also more importantly as a friend because you have been somebody that I can talk to off screen as well. So
Andrew, I really, really appreciate that. It means an awful lot to me, and it's true. Andrew and I have become good friends now. We actually swap life stories and things in our text messages these days. But it's a privilege to work with you. Like when they say Andrew is like a workhorse, there's nobody can. Some days on the site, I think that there's 3 guys with the same name and profile picture must be doing your job because I don't know what the record is for the number of stories in a day. Have you ever kept track of that, Andrew? But it's. When you're really on, it's wild, like the number of stories. So there's we both have the example of John Pollock, who's I think one of the best in the business, not just on screen but on the keyboard as well. He's tremendous. But Andrew's great, and we've come a long way because we had our beefs in the beginning. They weren't real, really. Like I think they go back to Davey and Braden's Royal Rumble thing. Yeah, and I just didn't know who to choose next. To sort of for the photo for the next question. And I picked Andrew.
Remember that?
And Andrew got eliminated, and that lasted a good year, I think. The beef.
Hey, Martin, I don't think me and Neil ever talked about this, but Davey and Braden, they tried to set up. You remember when people were slapping each other with the tortillas? You remember they tried to get me and Neil to do that on camera, slap the shit out of each other with some tortillas. Me and Neil was like, he was like, maybe not.
I remember that because I messaged you and I was like, "What's this tortilla thing?" And you just wrote back, "I ain't doing that shit, bro."
Oh my goodness!
I don't blame you either.
I thank you for putting me over, Andrew. But I should also say, in another very specific sense, I'm a terrible friend because I was supposed to make it to the anniversary show in Newark. 2 years ago at this point, maybe longer. I can't remember when it was, the 5-year anniversary of Post.
Yeah.
And Martin sent me a basketball shirt to bring with me to present to you. And I couldn't make the trip for one reason or another, which I won't go into. I had passport issues and the electronic thing that gets you into the country. I was stuck in Dublin. So next thing was, okay, well, I got over that sort of disappointment. I thought, well, I better post this thing to Andrew. I don't know, a month later, it hadn't gone. A couple of months later, it's still upstairs. I should have brought it here, actually, so I could have waved it.
I was thinking now, because I forgot about that, and then when you brought it up, and I'm like, the ultimate troll job would have been if you were wearing it on camera.
Yeah. And then so much time had gone by, I thought, I have to make it up to Andrew, not just for being late, but, this is no good. I'm going to get him something to send with it. So I got him a Republic of Ireland football hoodie. It looks a bit like the Boston Celtics logo, but if you can get over that, it's, it's a nice shade of green, a nice hoodie. It's upstairs as well. With the shirt, with the basketball shirt, but
you should have just done what everyone else does, Neil, and blame Royal Mail. You would have gone, well, I sent that thing. It just never arrived. Yeah.
No, I have to put my hands up. It's been an epic fail for 2 years or something like that, and I really need to sort of fess up to it on air and say, Andrew, look, it's almost Christmas. I'm going to have to get this thing to you.
You're going to Vegas next year.
I'm not going to make it to Vegas, so it's almost certainly going to have to be through the post. But he occasionally threatens to send the Gardaí after me.
Garda station.
The Garda station sends Garda.
Bro,
I haven't the heart to send it. Tell them they don't really have jurisdiction in my part of Ireland, but They do have good cooperation with the police service of Northern Ireland, so they might still show up
But
on my doorstep.
no, I'm gonna ask you because this like literally recent happened last week. You covered Survivor Series on the Post Wrestling website. What did you think about the show overall? What did you think about both the War Games matches and sort of the fallout of both those that PLE?
I wasn't as high on it as I've been of some of the other PLEs on the main roster stuff this year. I talked to Davey a little bit about this the other day, Davey Portman. I'm not an enormous fan of the preamble to the War Games getting started. I'm a little tired of the, the 5-minute timer and then the 2-minute thing and all of that. When nothing much is going to really happen until everyone's in there. So there's that. It's kind of let me cut it short. To me, like a 7, a solid 7. Still a very good show. Particularly looking back to the Vince era of the Survivor Series being the one time a year that Raw and SmackDown talent face each other, which was a lie because they were all over each other's shows like most of the year. And then you had all this nonsense of talent for a few weeks wearing a SmackDown t-shirt or a Raw t-shirt and pretending like they were really loyal to that brand. I bleed blue, if you cut me and all this crap. So I do definitely prefer War Games as a concept. It was a good show, but to me, I think the men's War Games was very good, and the Triple Threat IC title match was really good. Wasn't so much a fan of the world title match, although I know what they were doing. They were trying to change the pace a wee bit with a body part thing, with the Priest's shoulder. Very old school kind of match in a way, but I got kind of bored of it. A 7 out of 10 PLE, I think. What did you
it was
think,
all right,
Alan?
wasn't it? Yeah, it was
Guys.
okay, wasn't it? I stayed up and watched it live, which was as an older fella yourself, nearly, it's harder and harder to do that these days. Stay up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning watching these things. But yeah, I managed to stay up and watch the whole thing. But yeah, it was good in parts, and like the first elimination match was a bit of a mess until they all were in there and things.
Yeah.
But
Like,
and no match on there. I mean, obviously, WWE doing everything better storyline wise and building the crowd up, and obviously the reactions and the crowd and everything they're getting. But no match on that card even touched. It was even in the same country or the same stratosphere as the Osprey, as the Osprey Fletcher match from the week before.
when I was thinking about like the matches on that Survivor Series card that I think came out, the match that stood out for me for the night was probably that Triple Threat IC title match with Breaker, Ludwig, and Sheamus. I was like, I think that was the best bill match on that show. Like, what you was thinking, Neil?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. As a wrestling match, that was the best thing on the card.
And so I did want to make sure to mention this real quick. Martin Neal is a co-host of the Wellness Policy with Wei Ting and Jordan Goodman. Neil, tell us about your experience doing the Wellness Policy, man. You guys have about 40 something episodes so far?
It's wild, yeah. No, I wasn't on the show in the beginning. It was like a project that Jordan and Wei came up with together, because they became friends kind of off air, and then they were thinking about a project to do together, and I managed to kind of worm my way into it. No, I have been on more than half the episodes at this point, so I feel like I'm established on it, But yeah, it was really a project between Jordan and Wei in the beginning. And I've become better friends with those guys. And it's a reminder to me that, like, I've gone from a listener, a fan of John and Wei, sort of from the later years of the Law to the launch of Post to now being able to text these guys, kind of about silly stuff, or, things that have nothing to do with the site and all the rest of it. So I feel like I've come a really long way, as from a fan to doing a bit of voluntary work for the site to doing regular work on the site, and then got the Wellness Policy as a fairly sort of monthly gig on there, and Jordan's a really good friend at this point. I could say the same about Way as well. So I really enjoy it. It's great. You know, we get to talk about all sorts of things with all sorts of people. December, we still don't know what we're doing. It's usually just like, because it's the holidays.
Right.
Way has an awful lot to do because they're putting the Christmas show together and all the rest of it. We just do open calls. I don't know what it'll be. We're going to have a chat about it soon and work that out.
They're usually the best shows, though, aren't they? But all power to you, Neil. Yeah, you deserve everything that's good for you. I mean, you, Andrew, you know, John and Way. Who's the other guy who does the writing for the site? Jack. Yeah, Jack. Is it Jack Wanan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys. That's like one of the best teams going in sort of like wrestling. You know, journalism, news reporting, writing. You know, so fantastic work you guys do. You know, keep it up. And yeah, Neil. Any plugs before we let you get out of here?
Not really. Just look out for the next episode of the Wellness Policy. That's one of my regular things on post. I'll be writing on the site on Sunday this week, isn't it, Andrew? You're taking Saturday. So
shout out Neil, man. I'm telling you, that's the guy. That's the man. Hey, real quick before Neil finished plugging, if you want to hear more of this good man, episode 6, Martin, Bushby and Thompson Wrestling Adventure, Eddie Guerrero's Cheating Death, Stealing Life with Neil Flanagan.
A great DVD, by the way, and I still remember the bonus material than the documentary itself, because those were matches I hadn't seen before, particularly the early ones with Art Barr down in Mexico, like just amazing wrestling and amazing heel work, you know. So yeah, no, I remember that show with great fondness back in sort of June 22, I think I was on the show. And one we dig, because I think that Marcotte can't make it, can he? Because like the guy is always working. So he, on your finale show, was bigging himself up as the only 3-time guest with Thompson and Bushby, and I've equaled him. So
there you go.
With
there
this,
you go, Eric.
We've split the difference. Apart from, I know I've overstayed my welcome, so plugs. I'm not really on social media. I do have accounts on X and whatnot, but I don't use them. I am trying Blue Sky though. It feels like a nicer place at the moment. So if you search my name and look for my face, not C3PO.
Oh yeah, Neil Flanagan direct quotes.
Yes. Yeah.
You've got to get on Blue Sky, Andrew, to appreciate that joke. But anyway, thank you so much, Neil. Have a great holiday season, mate.
Thanks for having me.
To you.
Bye.
Appreciate you, Neil.
Cheers, mate. But always great
What a guy.
Neil. Our man, your man, everyone's man, Neil. Yeah, he's one of the most beloved guys in this circle. And I'm sure we can forgive him for that basketball jersey. I'm sure you'll get it when you're on your 40th birthday. 40th birthday present. Yeah.
You know I ain't never getting that jersey. It's all good though. It's all good. I appreciate the sentiment regardless. But yeah, shout out to Neil. Yeah. But also, Martin, we have our next guest, my man. Another was it 2-time guest on the show?
Yeah, another 2-time guest. Yeah,
2-time.
2-time. He was on episode 14, weren't he? And then I can't remember the other episode, but you'll know some of his past work from Daily DDT. It's Mr. Chad Gelfand. Chad, are you there?
Good?
Hey, there he is.
Hey, it's
Let's
good.
go.
It's good.
What's going on, Che? How you
Good,
feeling,
Andrew?
man?
What's good, Martin? How's it going?
Everything going smooth, man. It's good to see you, man. How you feeling?
I'm doing good. Great to be back on here. Now a 3-time guest too. So now you have
Look at- let's
three
go,
3-time
man.
guests on the show.
So wait, so Chad was on the Royal Rumble 2002 edition with Dr. Chris Ely, and then also the WWE King of the Ring 2002 edition with Chris Jeter. Chad, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Chris. Do you remember the infamous segment with yourself, Martin, Chris, and I when we reread Chris Jericho's letter when he was upset about people criticizing his match against RVD?
The PW Torch letter. Oh, of course.
Oh my goodness. Hey, but Chad, I wanted to ask you this. So this just recently happened on WWE TV. The New Day, man, after 10 years as a trio, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods have seemingly distanced themselves from Big E. First and foremost, your thoughts about 10 years of New Day, and just from an analyst perspective, how did you feel about the direction that they went? Because I assume that a lot of people probably thought Big E was going to show up and then when he showed up, it was going to be all roses and flowers and everything was going to be back to normal. But they took a completely different approach to what I thought was going to happen. What was your assessment on that?
Yeah, I was a bit caught off guard too. I felt like a heel turn was going to happen, but I didn't know exactly what direction they were going in. When Big E came in, I was not like you said. I thought that they were going in when Big E came out. I was like, okay, I guess they are gonna try to reunite the New Day here with Big E for a little bit, see where this goes, and then maybe down the line, like do the heel turn. But then Kofi said, "So what? You broke your neck." I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go." So, yeah, I was not expecting that direction. I was expecting Kofi and Woods to be a tag team. I thought, if anything, that they might stay faces and then decide that, like, hey, we're going to go our separate ways here. We're going to pursue our singles careers. But, yeah, I was definitely not expecting the direction that they went.
Like, how do you feel right now about the sort of the state of the WWE product right now? I think certainly a lot of people would agree that it's probably the best that it's been in quite some time in terms of they're obviously doing great business numbers and X, Y, and Z and stuff like that. How do you feel just even comparing that to what the product was and even the reaction to it even back in 2019 or 2018? Like, how's that sort of, like, how do you feel things as we inching closer to 2025?
It's definitely night and day compared to 2019. 2019 literally it led to the rise of AEW. Like, it led to the rise of a second company because things were so bleak. Like, I think Roman Reigns even like talked about, like, after the dog food angle, he was thinking about just hanging it up completely at the beginning of the pandemic. He seemed like he was just burnt out by everything that was going on there. But yeah, it just seems like there's an actual direction that they're going in, even if sometimes I don't always like the storyline direction. I could see a reason why they went in a direction, whereas in 2018, 2019, it seemed like stuff was just getting changed randomly, and there was no rhyme or reason for how stories were progressing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're from Philadelphia. You went to WrestleMania this year. How was that like? Did you go both nights? More importantly, how much were the tickets this year? I mean, I've been priced out of Vegas next year. Oh my God, $1,000 for 2 nights. Forget about it. How was the whole WrestleMania experience being in your hometown?
Yeah, I agree with you about the being priced out. I'm glad I got in because that was even a stretch. I was sitting in like the nosebleeds, the very top of the stadium. Even that was really expensive, but it was a great experience. Night one, I know a lot of people weren't really expecting like the cold, especially people from out of town, like how cold it was there. I was a bit more prepared, just living there, so like it didn't bother me too bad. But I thought definitely night two though was better than night one.
Yeah,
because night one, even the main event, it was about it felt like it was like an hour long with The Rock, but it felt like it was like 40 minutes of The Rock doing shtick before like the match started. He was just like walking around and just like talking smack and everything. But yeah, but I thought night one felt like night two felt like an epic end to a story.
Yeah.
My brother came with me, who's not really a wrestling fan, and he was like drawn in by night two. The fact, and you watched Raw the next night too, so like that actually like
awesome
helped. That like brought in like a new fan as well, just like the ending, because he keep up with like wrestling like tangentially. So when he saw like The Rock and Undertaker and John Cena come out, he was drawn in by that.
Hey, let me ask you this, Chad. So like you mentioned Cena just now. What are your early expectations for what this retirement year would look like? Of course, he's going to be wrapping up in December 2025. When just from off the top of your head, I'm going to assume that you think he'll win, and I think this too, that he'll win the World Heavyweight Championship once. Like when do you think that'll happen? Who do you think will be the person he'll defeat? When do you think he'll lose it? If you can like just conjure up an idea off the top. just what do you think how this retirement tour is going to pan out for John Cena, and do you think it'll be as successful as people are hoping it'll be, or the hype surrounding it?
I'm thinking it could go like two directions with Cena, where I can see him being like humble enough, like where he's like, I don't want the record for myself, but I can see him, and in that direction, I can see him going after maybe like the IC title since he's never won that, and then we get Braun Breaker versus John Cena possibly at WrestleMania, and then if he does go in the world title direction, I would see him versus Gunther. That just seems like a match made in heaven. Him versus Gunther, they're two characters.
Yeah, I see that too. Anything else, Martin?
Do you think we're going to get Cena against Rock again, though? That's it. I mean, obviously we've had it twice before. Surely that's the biggest match they can put on. But then that means they'd have to put Rock and Roman on the back burner again. So kind of like you're going to annoy the fans. But I could see someone like Rock wanting the biggest match possible, which is probably maybe against the retiring John Cena. You never know. But I suppose they're both so busy with film and TV now. You can imagine an insurance company for a film company going, no, you ain't listening, guys. Yeah.
I would wonder like how that whether that even like would occur at, because I think like WrestleMania would probably be like off the table for that right now. So would that be like at a SummerSlam maybe? It's just like it seems like it'd be like so hard to get the two schedules like lined up with each other.
Yeah,
like what promoting like the last like Fast and Furious movie.
what I was kind of thinking was for Cena, like maybe he'll get the shot at Gunther at WrestleMania. And a lot of people they'll kind of expect because it's his last WrestleMania, people will be like, oh, he's got to win it. Like at WrestleMania, like why wouldn't he win? And then maybe Gunther like crushes everybody's dreams or whatever, crushes everybody's heart. And then maybe they do like the rematch at SummerSlam, and then that's where he'll get the 17th world title. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that all plays out. But also like it seems like just from what I can tell and hearing him in interviews and stuff like that, it seemed like he all in on this retirement tour, and I'm more so curious as like how his body is gonna hold up. Because like if he's intending on like, hey man, I'm gonna be there at least 2 times out of the month, and I'm gonna try to wrestle as much as I can. Doing that for 12 months, man, when you ain't been doing that on a consistent basis that long, I'm genuinely curious to see how his body holds up. Like, do you think that's an aspect that'll factor into it?
I definitely do. Just seeing his last couple of singles matches, like you can against LA Knight and Solo, you can definitely see that he doesn't move around as well. But that can also just be because like you hear wrestlers all the time talk about like they have to build up like a body callus. So I imagine that like shocking, like taking like a bump after not doing that for like 6 to 12 months, and like it's probably hard to get into like a rhythm. So maybe like a couple months into his run, he'll start like getting into like a really good rhythm again, and then we start seeing like a resurgence of Cena in the ring. But yeah, I feel like that's something in the back of his mind too, probably like how am I going to react like at close to 50 to wrestling this much?
Fine.
He'll have to do a sting, won't he, and start jumping off balconies onto tables and stuff like that. Apparently that's what you do when you're a 60-year-old man. But anyway, I know obviously we did add a little back and forth yesterday about sort of AEW and obviously Swerve being the first sort of like black wrestler to headline Wembley and stuff like that. And I know you had some thoughts coming out of that about like Swerve and then Adam Page and maybe the show in Texas next year.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they should headline All In Texas for the world
That's
title.
A good call.
It feels like that's like the marquee feud in AEW right now. It's Swerve and Hangman, and I was for the argument too of them doing that at Wembley this year too, with instead of Bryan Danielson. But after I saw that how it played out, I was like, okay, I actually agree with that. He got that moment. Like that was a great moment in AEW history. But maybe Hangman should have been the one to take the title from Danielson and then build to that. But hey, we can still get there in many different ways. It's a long time from now. But yeah, I think like that's like the number one feud in AEW that they should be building to. Like that's what they should like circle in, and then for the next 6 months, like build to that, like build the story that brings Hangman and Swerve like to Texas when they're facing each other.
There you go. Hey, Chad, real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you like what has been your sort of assessment of the presentation of the Hurt Syndicate in AEW? Like, of course, like they've all expressed, Sheldon, Bobby, and MVP have all talked about how this was something that they wanted to continue in front of crowds in WWE, but management obviously had a different direction that they wanted to go. There was a lot of miscommunication from management to them about what would potentially become, but it never really came to fruition about a Hurt Business 2.0. What would have been your thoughts about the current presentation of the Hurt Syndicate, and what sort of the lengths do you think they'll go as a group and as individuals in AEW?
I think it's been good so far. Obviously, like they haven't like done too much in like since they're just like debuted as a group recently. But I thought Sheldon Benjamin's doing some like the best work of his career right now. And initially, I was on the train of like Bobby Lashley maybe becoming world champion, but now I'm like shifted to, hey, like Shelton Benjamin, that might be something that you want to explore as possibly becoming world champion, like going on that journey. Like he's never been a world champion anywhere in his career, and he's getting big reactions. If you like the match yesterday with Kyle Fletcher, like the crowd was going crazy for all of his offense in that match. So I think that AEW should like keep an eye on that and maybe keep that like in the back of their head, like, hey, like maybe we should be pushing Shelton a little bit here. The crowd seems to be really behind him.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. And I think Shelton has, I don't think he surprised people, but for him to be where he is age-wise, and also the mileage that he's put on his body, for him to be still performing the way he is, like even the way he came out in his AEW debut, I was like, oh boy, that man still got it. He's still like you can tell he's still wrestling with that chip on his shoulder, and I'm really glad that they put him in the Continental Classic, so you can just let him do his thing, because people have like been wanting to see Shelton on a big stage where he can just do his thing, and I think that now he's getting that opportunity. Better late than never, but at the same token, like he's still very elite for him being at the stage of his career that he's at. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with you about he definitely wrestling like he got something to prove. Martin?
I think too.
Oh, you go ahead, Chad. No, you go ahead, Chad. My bad.
I think too, because WWE had him like parked for like a couple years there, that people just like thought that like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. Like they're not using him on anything really. It's like maybe like Shelton's like lost a step here, and then he's proven that, hey, no, I still have a lot left in the tank here. I think too that that's the kind of like the purpose of the Hurt Syndicate and AEW is that they all felt that WWE at the end like didn't use them to like the peak of their abilities right now. Like they kind of pushed them to the side in the new Triple H era. Like he had his favorites, and they didn't appear to be some of them. So now, like I think they have a lot to prove in AEW, that like they're still at the top of their game here.
Chad, thank you. So good chatting to you, mate. We had some good time. Yeah, like you said, third time guest. Brilliant having you on. Any plugs before you head out of here, mate?
No. Well, we have my podcast, Subject to Change. We're hopefully starting up again in the new year, so keep an eye out for that.
There you go.
Excellent. Thank you so much, mate. You have a great holiday season, New Year, everything. Fingers crossed for the Eagles for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Man. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, my brother.
Cheers, mate. What a great guy. I always love chatting to Chad. Always. Time for him. Love chatting to him on Instagram, things like that. Great guy. Great, fantastic head of hair on that man. Wow. Anyway, Andrew, we've come towards the end of the show, and our last guest, certainly not least, fantastic. And co-host, one of my favorite pods out there. If you haven't checked out this pod, it's absolutely brilliant. Some fantastic analysis and stuff. I only discovered it last year, I think, but yeah, I've been a big fan. It's none other than Trish from the Trish and Sarah Show.
Let's go.
Wow. Look at this hat.
There you go. Look at this hat. I said Christmas hat, and I couldn't find a Santa hat, so this is what we're going with. This is
wow.
Happy holidays indeed, Trish. Happy holidays.
Yeah. It's
Thank
definitely
you.
a Christmas show now with
Like,
that.
someone
With
talk
that
up.
for it's definitely a Christmas show now with that hat.
Oh.
Wow, what a job for audio listeners. Trish is wearing like a sort of Christmas tree hat. That's fantastic. All great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us, Trish. Really appreciate you taking the time out.
No, you're welcome. Enjoy listening to what you guys do, especially when it involves Dean Ambrose stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Take him
How's
out.
it going with you? Have you been drowned by this British weather we've been having today? It's been chucking it down, hasn't it?
Oh my god. We've had hail, we've had wind, we've had rain, we've had pretty much everything. Like at one point I thought the window was gonna come in and I'm like, what is going on? But no, we survived pretty well this week. Very cold when I was over Yorkshire way on Tuesday, but not too bad. So we'll take it.
Oh, did you go to the
It's Britain.
England women's
It's
match?
Yeah, I went on Saturday and I went on
Right.
Tuesday. Very luckily, because I'm off this week. So, and
nice
yeah,
one.
we did the pitch tour on Saturday, and
Oh, you're breaking up there a bit. Oh, I think we lost her. Oh no, we'll have to get her to look in, I guess. Oh no, Andrew, it was all going so smoothly, wasn't it?
Yeah. She'll be back though. She'll be back. She'll be back.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully she'll be back.
We've had some great guests on though so far, haven't we?
Yeah, we had some very excellent guests. Definitely appreciated everybody who joined thus far. I think that there's been the thing that I kind of like is how we've sort of balanced the conversations amongst the guests, like just their general opinions about wrestling and combat sports, or going back and forth between that and their individual like accomplishments and accolades that they like tallied up over the years since they've been on the podcast. There she go.
There she is.
She's
We're
back.
back.
She's back. Let's go.
there we go. That's the
there we go.
That's the Great British Weather for you.
Yeah, there you go. This is a British day, by the way, Andrew. This is all the Brits do is talk about the weather and moan about the weather and everything. So
sounds lovely.
Yeah. But as far as I wasn't just saying it. You're on the show. You do a fantastic podcast out there. So as your fandom go, how did you start the podcast and your wrestling fandom, and how did you get into everything?
My fandom is pretty long standing. So I grew up in Portsmouth, which for the early 2000s was kind of the center of British wrestling. So we had the FWA Academy and a lot of the FWA shows, which were kind of the leading independent shows of that period. And once that happened, I just never got out of it, ever. So it definitely came from that. And then you get more and more involved in different things. I watched Ring of Honor, I watched TNA. 2010s, like a lot of people, I got really, really into New Japan, Lucha Underground. I will still sing about the first season of Lucha Underground probably forever. Like literally forever. And then, I watched, some WWE, and most of the time we were just working. My husband did a lot of wrestling photography in the 2010s around the UK, and we worked a lot of shows, helped a lot of shows. I spoke to a lot of people. So that was probably where my fandom came from. All the way through. So I've just kind of, it's weird because I think there's a lot of people these days who have like one company identity. I definitely don't feel that way. I just kind of go from one thing to another, and you just try and enjoy what you can in that moment. So.
Hey,
what shows were you working as a photographer and stuff then? What promotions?
He did most of photography, but I just So I did lots of kind of other things just around about. I'm always kind of busy. I always said I'd never be involved in this industry, and now I'm probably more involved than ever, which I don't understand how that happened. It's a strange thing.
I say, Trisha.
But no, so we would.
Is she still there? Oh no, I was going to make this quick plug. Real quick,
go ahead.
On the official Chop Tees website, you can get your official Trish and Sarah wrestling merchandise. You got shirts, hoodies, hats. Get the works, man. You get the works. Go supporting Trish and Sarah, man. Just want to make that quick plug right on the Chop Tees website.
That's one of the bonuses about being a podcast.
You're going to do better plugs than me. So I am.
No, you're not a fan of plugging the merch and stuff then?
No, I'm just useless. I'm just
You're
useless. No, I like we'll do the close of the show and we'll probably do it about like 4 times and Leah has to edit it because I've just completely screwed it up. And I'll be reading off something. I've like written it out and I'm like, I'm just no Jeremy Donovan. You know, he does Keeping It Strong style. He nails it like every single time. And I am just, I'm no good at it. I don't think we're used to it. And we're not doing this for like financial stuff. So in fact, any money that we get from merchandise is kind of sitting in a pot at the moment, and we'll use it for commissioning new merch or equipment or for anything else that we can, find useful. Because we do this it's something that both Sarah and I enjoy. And, I'm sad enough to really enjoy numbers. It's actually my stress relief from working trains, which is probably not something normal people would say. But yeah, that's kind of why. So yeah, I don't know if I'm uncomfortable with it, but I'm just not the best. I'm not the best seller.
It's definitely a fine art, but something you are really good at is analysing AEW on your show. I mean, that's one of the main things that a lot of people tune in for. I mean, sort of like talking some recent AEW stories. I mean, as we move into the sort of end of the year, and it seems they're like scaling down arenas and sort of like going to like smaller venues and stuff. Do you feel like this is something they should have done a while back, or do you think it's about the right time for them to start scaling back some of these shows that they're doing now?
It's probably something they should have looked at doing kind of once they introduced Collision. But it's really difficult as well, because then you've got the logistics issues over, moving the set, making a smaller set that's going to fit. You've also got the issues in terms of they like the bigger buildings. They like the kind of everything that's involved in the facility. But at the end of the day, it's the same as when, SmackDown was added to Raw in 2001. By 2002, 2003, they were struggling with attendances, and then the questions of smaller buildings were there as well. So this isn't like a new thing. This isn't an AEW only thing. This is something that happens every time that you extend kind of your live events to that degree, because you're taking the same fan base and then asking them to double the amount of shows that fan base is going to cover. So yeah, it needed to happen. It's the right time to happen. I think you can see with the atmosphere on last night's Dynamite that it makes a huge, huge difference when you've got, a louder crowd in a smaller building than having the same size crowd in a completely cavernous building. And it makes for better performances from the wrestlers. It just improves everything. And perception is so important now. I think that's probably the one thing that you can say this year. No matter the fact that AEW have got this huge TV deal now, everything seems to be based on what the perception is of the product. So any way that you can improve that, the better. And then it just makes the shows more fun. If you go to a show and you have a great time and, because it's a small atmosphere and you feel like you're really part of something, it's that kind of energy that really helped them at the start of AEW that they could do with kind of, in terms of, I hate the words restoring the feeling. Oh my God. But in terms of restoring the feeling, or whatever you want to call it, or turning it around, or whatever other jump phrases we're using at the moment, probably the biggest key would be to kind of have that atmosphere back in these arenas.
I feel like that's the main thing, isn't it? Because, like you said, perception's everything. And if people are watching the shows on TV and it's like a dead crowd in a cavernous arena or whatever, it's not exactly looking like a hot ticket, is it? But like you said, when they're doing the smaller venues with a hotter crowd, then it's gonna, wow, I need to be part of that sort of thing. So yeah, it all sort of like folds into each other. And like you said, the wrestlers, are all sort of wanting to perform in front of hot crowds, aren't they? So it's going to, reciprocate in the matches they're getting. I mean, as far as sort of like the tail end of the year goes, how do you feel sort of like we've had Danielson's retirement and then Mox has been on top so far? How do you feel like that's been going and then obviously possibly Kenny Omega coming back next year? How do you feel like that's all been working as far as like, the pot that is AEW?
Like poking the bear here. I'm never going to be a fan of what they did with the Danielson run. I understand it. I understand that he wanted him on his kind of on his lineage, but it was the wrong time. I think they should have done it Grand Slam 2022. I think that was probably the right time. And by doing it now, they got a moment out of it, but they didn't get much else. The Moxley thing, we'll see. There's been some changes this week that are more positive than what we were doing coming out the pay-per-view. So they are listening, which is good. Because there was definitely, some of those were definite changes. But it's a very much we'll see. I don't think you can judge that whole angle right now. I think you can judge each kind of cycle as we go forward. But it's really hard to judge anything like that that's got this kind of massive ambition until you kind of see where it ends up. So.
I say, Trish, I wanted to get your thoughts about the Omega being back in New Japan before he showed up back for his return to AEW. Like there were a lot of I mostly saw it on social media, like the opinions about like should he have showed up on AEW first since that's his main contractual obligation, and like even the past comments that Omega has made like on his Twitch stream before his surgery.
Yeah, so
you go ahead.
No, so yeah, apologies for the lag, by the way. My internet just does not like this app. I keep trying it. But no, so for me, Kenny Omega is an AEW contracted talent. And the way that, some people have heard me say this already, but the way that WWE got hot is they had people coming from outside that then got hot, which was kind of like your controversy. So your thing that happened that sparked interest. And Kenny Omega returning after having diverticulitis and nearly dying, legitimately nearly dying, is a huge thing that you can use as a promotional activity. The same way we've talked about previously on our pod about Tanahashi coming back after he was stabbed for, being Tanahashi. And New Japan made huge business out of that in a period where they were struggling. They weren't at their top. So you have this opportunity and you had this storyline and you did this segment with Okada and with the Elite back in May in Winnipeg that did really, really well in its number. So there's obviously interest in it and you're going to give that to New Japan. And maybe it's not give that. Maybe this is Kenny's choice. Likelihood is it is Kenny's choice. But it seems to, when you're talking about turning it around and all the other stuff that they're talking about, you'd think that they would want that on their television. For me, it should be on their television. His first match back should be an AEW thing that's promoted heavily. And, Kenny is a guy that can elevate them, that can give them the quick wins while you're developing others underneath. And it just feels like a insane decision to me to let that happen with New Japan. I'm sure he'll prefer it because, he'll know he'll be presented like a star. We've seen it when he went back to the Tokyo Dome to face Will Ospreay. Mm-hmm. That is Kenny Omega. And we don't always see that Kenny Omega in AEW. So,
yeah, it's absolutely wild that he's out here saying, no, they don't need me right now. And it's like... Have you been watching these shows in these arenas, mate? Yeah, they need him more than ever. Wild.
Yeah, and he's so critical to so many of these stories now. So.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I know you went through some of on your podcast, but there is so many stuff that Kenny Omega could be getting his teeth into.
Yeah, and everyone that's kind of being elevated, so to speak, can do something with Kenny Omega. Even someone like Carl Fletcher has had a match with Kenny Omega that they can come back to. Will Ospreay, if he's going to get the belt at some point, that should be related to Kenny Omega. These are the people that you play in. Adam Page goes without saying. John Moxley has that long rival history of Kenny Omega. There is just so many of the key guys that you can link in, and then there's so many people that he hasn't faced. So you don't know how long this run's going to last. I don't think Kenny knows how long this thing is going to last. So you've got to make everything you do with him now important. No throwing out matches like the MJF title match in 3 days with no build. Every single thing has to be important here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something they've got to put their hat on this year, making stuff feel more important, like you said, not throwing things out and like having, how many more years are we going to have Kenny Omega? So everything has got to be important with him. But Trish, thank you so much for joining us. I know we've had some, a few audio issues and stuff like that, but thank you for persevering through it, and thanks so much. But definitely, everyone, fantastic
apologies.
Show. No.
problem at all.
We've all been there with bad internet on these podcasts. Everyone has been there. But thank you so much, and have a fantastic Christmas. you want me to do the plugs? Because you were saying you wouldn't. Trish and Sarah, that lands anywhere where you find your podcast. Check out the merch on Chop Tees and at Trish and Sarah on. Are you guys still on X?
We are still on X because I'm very much into wanting to be on as many platforms as possible and not kind of. I kept using the word balkanization of social media the other day, and someone messaged me about it, and I was like, yeah, that's how I feel. So we are still on X. We are on Blue Sky under our own accounts for the moment, mainly because in terms of technical faux pas, for once it wasn't me, and Sarah's having some issues with the pod on there.
Right.
So we will be on there soon on Blue Sky as a pod email, but it wasn't me for a change, which is really nice because it is right now.
Thanks so much. Love the hat. Thank you so much for taking your time, and have a fantastic holiday season.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Trish.
Cheers. Oh, fantastic guest. Yeah, like I said, one of my favorite. I don't even know. I discovered it maybe on Twitter or whatever, but one of my pod finds of last year. That was definitely so yeah, definitely check her out there. We had, obviously there was some audio issues there and a big lag and everything. So, but
yeah, she did fine, man.
Check out their. Andrew, have you been sending out the link to the StreamYard like sneakily or something? Because that was supposed to be our last guest, but some ruffian, some scallywag has managed to find his way through the back door here.
Tab out. You so disrespectful. You know what you're doing. For people that don't see this man right now, he is wearing Boston Celtics merchandise. He has a Boston Celtics cover or whatever it is.
How did that happen?
Listen, for those of you who don't know, I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. The Celtics have been a thorn in my side. I can't stand these individuals. But you know what? We could put that aside, Martin, because our guest right now, MMA Marcotte, the man, the 3-time guest.
I am now a 4-time guest, one and only 4 times. No one's touching me.
4-time guest, man, the man. Eric Marcotte, what's going on, man? How you doing? It's good to see you.
Man, I was sleeping. I was sleeping, and I got that like sixth sense in me. I just kind of woke up and checked my phone notifications, and I see an Instagram message from Andrew Thompson sending a StreamYard link. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Anyways, I knew I had to come in here 4 times. Okay, it was meant to be. Mark, come on, you should have reached out to me.
I know. I should have, mate. That's my bad. I wasn't thinking. 4-time guest, the 4 horsemen coming in here. How's it going anyway, Eric? How's things up there in across there, rather I should say, in old Canada? How's things with you?
It's starting to get a bit cold out here. There's a lot of snow outside, and I'm avoiding shoveling by sleeping all day. It's really responsible. Yeah, fun times.
I say, Eric, you have, of course, you are. I consider you to be one of the staples of post wrestling and the MMA work. Got to ask you about UFC 309 that just passed. Most so wanted to ask you about what you thought about the overall card. Like I feel like you can give like yourself and Chinyere and Ray, who we had Chinyere on the show earlier, give us a better analysis of MMA. I kind of catch like the main stuff, but what did you think about the show, the presentation, and also what did you think about them giving Donald Trump a grand entrance like he was walking to the cage? What did you think about that whole deal?
I was about to say I don't really remember the fights. I remember the MAGA rally. That was it was a 7-hour MAGA rally. I remember that very clearly. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
The card itself, what happened on there? The old John Jones fought old Stipe Miocic. It was okay. What else was going on back there? Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler, very entertaining fighters. Check that one out if you're an MMA fan. Otherwise, forget that card ever happened.
Yeah, Martin.
They are just Trump rallies now, though, aren't they? Yeah, that's
exactly what that shit was. But you know what, bro? I'm so glad we just calling it what it is. That's exactly what that shit was. And we had brought it up earlier when we were talking to Chinyere. When Dana White came out publicly and he was like, I don't want any politics involved in my stuff. And then he goes on a complete like campaign trail. And then he just did an interview, I think it was 2 weeks ago, a week ago with the New Yorker, where he said, I'm never getting involved in politics again. It's so dirty. I don't want anything to do with it. And I'm like, What, bro? Like, come on, man.
The man will say anything. And listen, for these fighters, man, they were performing for an audience of one. They were so excited that Mr. President Donald Trump was there. I mean, you need to watch the John Jones post-fight interview. He was trying to break out like the Trump dance. I think he gave him his title at the end. So I mean, Donald Trump might be the UFC heavyweight champion now. I'm not sure how that works.
What is happening, man? What is happening? What is going on?
You know what the best part was? People went into Jones's follows after, and they were like, "Wait, this guy was following Kamala Harris and wasn't following Donald Trump. What happened there?" And then, like the next day, he unfollowed her and followed Trump.
Lord have mercy, bro.
Peak John Jones, peak MMA.
Let's say, Eric, have you been keeping up with pro wrestling lately? Anything that's caught your eye from AEW or WWE? Like I know the Continental Classic going on right now. Heading up, the World's End. It's almost the end of the year. Got the Royal Rumble coming up. Cena's retirement, Goldberg's last match, 2025, Eric.
I mean, honestly, I've fallen off wrestling a bit this year. I still know what's going on everywhere. I listen to way too many wrestling podcasts, but the major promotions, which entails WWE, AEW, maybe New Japan, they're not really doing anything that interests me right now. I don't know. The stories aren't gripping me. I feel like the in-ring peaked in 2017. Yeah, I know. I sound like a bitter, jaded wrestling fan right now. I don't know. It's just not for me right now.
You won't know this actually, Andrew. I got an invite into this thing known as the Dick Code, which is where a lot of illegal things happen. And Eric's always on there watching bad wrestling. He's a big fan of bad wrestling, like think of the worst WrestleMania ever. Eric wants to stream that, or Fall Brawl 95 or whatever. So it's all about the bad wrestling, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, that's how I stay in touch with my wrestling fandom. I will at 3 a.m. I'll be like, you know what I really want to watch right now? I want to watch December to Dismember. This sounds like a good time.
Yes,
and it never is, but it always sounds like one. So.
I say, so Martin, Eric has been, like we mentioned, he's been on the podcast 4 times now. One of the shows that he was on, BTWA episode 11, Best in the World, the DVD, the CM Punk DVD. Eric, did you ever think you would see a day when CM Punk was back in WWE? And I know you said you haven't kept up much with the product, but I'm pretty sure you seen stuff on social media and whatnot. What have you been able to make out of Punk's comeback to WWE? And also recently, just to throw this in there, there was a report that came out yesterday, I think it was from Fightful Select, that it was an HR email from Ryan Nemeth, who feels that there was an altercation between him and CM Punk that led to him being no longer with AEW, and there was an issue between those two. If people don't remember, after Punk came back, when he was the whole situation when he had to fight with the Bucks and Kenny, came back on Collision, and Ryan Nemeth tweeted out right after, literally the softest man alive, and that led to some type of issue between them. But what have you made about CM Punk's comeback? The fight being shown on AEW TV. What was that, earlier this year? And all things CM Punk, I guess. What have you made of this, Eric?
Always a ton of drama surrounding one Phil Brooks. 5 years ago, if you told me that CM Punk would be back in the WWE, I would have been shocked. But I think after a year in AEW, the writing was kind of on the wall for that one. I think it's went as well as you could have expected it to go. I feel like everything he's done has been received fairly well. You're going to have to deal with some injuries at this point in his career. He's older and obviously had a number of severe injuries in AEW. Lost a lot of time at the start of this year because of one, but I think if you're a CM Punk fan, you're probably pretty happy with how things have went for him. I don't know about Ryan Nemeth, CM Punk feuds. What is this? What are we talking about here? I mean, I don't know. Best of luck to Ryan Nemeth on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Nemeth's just trying to make him stay still relevant, isn't he? So he's like, I'll throw CM Punk's name out there and Fightful will do a big article on me. So yeah, it's interesting, that one. But Eric, any big plans for the holidays? This is a Christmas show. I'm sad you came on in this fucking Boston Celtics hat, not Christmas hat, but there we go. What big plans have you got for the holiday season?
Well, the Boston Celtics will be playing on Christmas Day because they're an
Oh, there you
important
go.
basketball team. So they get that primetime slot. They're not one of these jobber franchises that don't get to play on Christmas. So.
Hey, can I mention something real quick, Martin? Real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
The Boston Celtics beat us the first game of the season that we played, but on December 1st, Cleveland Cavaliers got that dub, Martin, over the Boston Celtics. So
let's go.
Listen, man, Eric, I don't know how you feeling, my brother, but I'm smelling an NBA Finals appearance from my Cavs.
Like in 2016? Listen, hey, there's only two good teams in the Eastern Conference.
You ain't lying.
Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So
you ain't lying.
Your odds are good, but don't forget, you haven't played the Celtics with all 5 of their starters yet.
I know, man. Like so like in all seriousness, like all like my personal bias aside, that's like the only team that like genuinely concerns me in terms of like, because I think it's so different than playing in a 7-game series. Like that's a whole different ball game. I think there's like a middle edge as well, because I feel like against you guys, we're definitely the underdogs in that scenario, and I feel like if we don't win, if that is a series that does happen, if we don't win game 1 to get that mental edge, then it's gonna go downhill, because I feel like we're like the little giants fighting up. That's what it feels like. But like in terms of like the rest of the Eastern Conference, I really genuinely like no other team concerns me. Like even though they're awesome, good. Like I think the Knicks are good, but I just don't like I don't see NBA Finals written on them. But yeah, that's kind of
only team that can do anything is Milwaukee, because Giannis can show up and average like 60 points and 40 rebounds and just win 4 games by himself. But
that's facts.
About that.
That's facts. Hey, do you think real quick? Do you think this will be? Do you think LeBron's gonna pull a Steve Austin next year? Like he'll just silently walk off into the?
No! LeBron will never do the silent walk off. Are you kidding me? This guy is gonna have the biggest retirement tour in the history of basketball. It's gonna be wild. Man, they're gonna be playing his games at stadiums.
Think about the retirement tours we might have next year, man. We got Cena, got Tanahashi, we got Goldberg, and we got maybe LeBron James. What's a sad/great year for retirements next year, man? Sad/great year. What you got, Martin?
Can you imagine the entrances LeBron's going to have at every stadium or arena on his fucking retirement tour? It's going to like make WrestleMania entrances look nothing compared to this, what he's going to come out to.
Yeah.
That's going to be hilarious. I hope it happens anyway. Eric, thank you so much for joining us in the last minute. Great.
Last minute.
We had to have you on. That was my bad. We had to have you on here, but have a great holiday, mate. Any plugs you want to get in there?
My only plug is that there will be a 5th appearance. Mark my words.
Let's go.
I will see you guys then.
Let's go. Shout out to Eric.
Cheers,
man.
mate. Thank you, Eric. Have a good one. Right, Andrew, come to the end of the show. That was a brilliant show. Fantastic. Loved it. All went to plan and had some great guests. Enjoyed chatting to everybody. Well, obviously, the main reason I loved doing it was reuniting with you, mate. We haven't done one of these in ages. So yeah, it was fantastic chatting to you, mate.
I was very, very, like I said at the beginning of the show, man, I was very, very pleased about the idea of doing the show, and now that it's sadly come to an end, I'm very, very pleased with what we've done, and also the guests that we've had, man. More importantly, I really like sort of touched on it but before Trish came back in. Like I really enjoy like the balance of talking about the guests that we've had on the show versus just general topics, whether it be MMA or pro wrestling. Like I've like more so like really enjoyed like seeing what everybody else has been up to, like the different stuff that they've accomplished and like all that good stuff. It's like genuinely like really good to see everybody doing well and progressing in the wrestling space of combat sports space, man. And of course, man, it's good to reunite with my guy. Like I'm not gonna sit here and talk like we talk like every fucking day. So I ain't gotta sit here and be like, oh, I never talked to you again, Martin. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure I'll message you like an hour after we finish recording this.
Yeah.
So like it's good to be back on screen. Again, podcast, some of the funnest memories that I've had doing podcasts in general. We had 21 bangers episodes, and I definitely appreciate the times when I wasn't able to. I think I missed like 2 or 3 shows, and I definitely appreciate the times when you were able to cover for me, man, and you made sure to hold the fort down and do an excellent job as you always were. Like one thing I always appreciated about the our podcast is that like your level of preparation. Like it doesn't matter what show it was or what topic it was. Like you always made sure to do like the most thorough coverage, and also make sure to do that for our guests as well. And I always tried to match that. So I'm very, very pleased, man. September 2024 through the return in December 2024. I mean, I said 2020, September 2020 to December 2024. We started off with Nate. Who else we had, man? We got to show love to Uncle Nate. But Uncle Nate is a very, very busy man. That's one of the busiest people. You know, he got a day job.
Oh, yeah.
Nate got about 3-4 different podcasts. That man got a podcast network. Like Nate is a very busy man. So definitely shout out to our first ever guest, Nate Milton.
Yep.
We had Slammiversary 2018. We had Amari, I swear I would never forget that podcast that when it was you, Reg, Benno, and I would never in my life forget that. the infamous waiting dog.
Yep.
the Matilda the dog thing. Of course, we had Sonal on here. But you want to know what I always enjoy her like deep analysis of New Japan. Like, bro, she's like so knowledgeable. Like not even just that, but like with Stardom as well. Like, and I'm glad you mentioned the podcast with that she does with SP3. Shout out to Sid, man. Sid was a guest on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
As well, man. Shout out to Sid. He was on I think we did the Final Battle 2005 with SP3 from True Hill Heat. Shout out to Sid, man. That's another amazing podcaster and somebody who we're great friends with, man. But there's so many guests that we had. I want to make sure to mention this dude too, man. John Lister. Shout out to John, man, who was on the ECW show. Will Cooling. Shout out to Will. From PW Torch.
Andy Q.
Andy Q. Shout out to Andy Q. That Rich Fan. Got to shout out the man.
What a guy. Rich Fan always.
The one and only Rich Fan. Shout out to my guy, Jeremy Lambert from Fightful, who joined me for the No Way Out 2003 podcast. That's my dude right there. Much love to Germ. And then, we had a bunch of individual episodes as well, man. We had... we did the SummerSlam 2002. We did TakeOver New Orleans 2018. We did Impact Slammiversary 2018. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I think that was the best pay-per-view of 2018, like just in wrestling in general, that 2005 show. We did the Cruiserweight Classic, which I enjoyed.
That was a good one, yeah.
You want to know the crazy thing about the Cruiserweight Classic? Like I was kind of nervous / somewhat like hesitant about that one, because of the how big that tournament was, and I was curious as to how we were going to break it down. But like once me and you kind of like got into the weeds of it and we started discussing, I was like, oh, this gonna be sweet. Like it was kind of real. It was kind of real simple after that. But it was just the idea of it, because I was like, that tournament was like 4 days worth of tournament. So yeah, man, we had a lot of great guests on the show, but definitely want to make sure to mention the individuals, who we didn't have on the show today. SP3, Nate, John Lister, Will Cooling. Shout out to my guys, man. Shout out to the good guys. Shout out to them. Shout out to all our guests that we had on the show, Mark.
We had a great run, Andrew. It's always great. Always loved doing the podcast with you. You're always brilliant doing them. But Andrew, we've got a few plugs to get in before we get out of here, mate. We've got our own. We were plugging Chop Teas earlier. We've got some few bits on Chop Teas. First off, look at this, and the Andrew Thompson collection. Did you ever think when you were at college you'd have your own collection of clothes? I mean, look at this. I mean, for audio listeners, I've just put up the Chop Teas page where you can get the Yick merch. You can get your Andrew Thompson baseball caps. All the stuff's on there. I mean, it's cold now. You can even get an Andrew Thompson beanie hat. I mean, yeah, get one of, especially if you've got a bald head like me, that'll keep you warm. Good stuff on there, mate.
I want to definitely shout out Dickie Bird, who is the mastermind behind this. He definitely convinced me to do it. I was initially, I was like, I don't know if I deserve any merchandise, so I was like, no, we can kind of skip past me. But Dickie was like, do the damn merchandise. So I was like, all right, let's. So I was like, all right, let's do it. But yeah, shout out
one right now, the Yick.
Shout out. See, look at my guy, man. See, look at this. Look at this, man. But Yeah, no, shout out to Dickie, man. He does an excellent job with shop tees in general. Like we said, Trish and Sarah have merchandise up there. You get your Bushby and Thompson
throwback retro. It's all about the retro stuff now, Andrew.
Man.
Yeah, there you go.
You can go get that, go cop that right now, man. And if you ever with that, if you had a wrestling show, or whether you just chilling out in public, take a picture, tag us on Blue Sky or tag us on Twitter or tag us on Instagram, whatever the situation is, man. But
yeah, that's sweet Bushby and Thompson merch.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe 22 episodes, man. 22, not 21, 22.
Yeah, 22
episodes, man. It's beautiful, man. Martin, you the man, brother.
No, you're the man, Andrew. You're the man. Always great chatting to you and doing pods with you. Just before we head out of here, Poison Rana, of course, allowing us to do this show on their YouTube feed. Thanks to them, guys. Latest shows up there. They had What Up Doe with B Detroit and Cino talking the latest Kendrick Lamar album. That's a fantastic show. Go and check that out. Braden Davey just dropped their latest film review, The Suicide Squad, which I think was the second one with John Cena in, on their Patreon. Head to that. I'll be back. Eagles Don't Run Flies with Dickie and Brandon on 13th, then the Big Fat Quiz of the Year on the 18th of December. Andrew, what have you got coming up this month? I know there's going to be a big festive edition of NWA coming up soon, isn't there?
Yeah, man, a big festive edition indeed of the NWA podcast with Nate Milton, Two-Way Ray Williams, aka Ray Ting, and Chris Ely and myself. Very much looking forward to that. You can catch my written work over at Post Wrestling. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, AD Thompson __. Try to get back in the interview swing of things, so hopefully we'll get that kicking in 2025. But yeah, that's about all I got, brother.
Oh, you did a big interview recently. Was it with the Stardom time?
Yeah,
we
did an interview with Shuri, man. It was very exciting. Shout out to Tom Fain who works for Stardom, who set that up. Shout out to him. That was very cool to be able to do that. So yeah, shout out to got to interview a former World of Stardom champion, man. That was very cool. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
That's a big deal. Big deal, mate. Yeah,
appreciate
I forgot about it. That's a huge deal. Yeah, always enjoy your interviews. But yeah, he didn't want Leon Slater. He's the hot ticket at the moment.
Hey.
Andrew was interviewing him way back, so there's loads of people on there. So definitely check out Andrew's YouTube. Tons of fun stuff. Andrew, the pleasure, as always, has been all mine. You are fantastic, mate. What's been fantastic about this show and Post Wrestling and all this community, as much as Twitter's like a cesspit now, what was great about that place originally was meeting all these people through Post and everybody like that. And obviously one of the highlights, the honors, is getting to call you a friend. So thank you so much, mate. It's been fantastic. I'm so glad we did this show. I hope you have a great holiday, mate. And I'm sure, like you said, I'll be chatting to you either later on tonight or tomorrow. But thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate you all in the chat. Mr. Waiting in the chat saying Kennel from Hell for Life. Never forgot that about Matilda. Yeah, thanks to everyone else that joined us. Thanks to all the guests. Thank you and yeah, thanks to everyone. Have a great holiday and Christmas season, and we'll catch you later on.